somersault crossover. Oh, killer crossover. Just crossover. It just crossed him over nastily. Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
The crossover is powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. Connor Happer.
Everlevel. Hello.
How are you?
Good. 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 Not good, but good.
I see I missed some drama, some zone drama yesterday afternoon.
I wouldn't call it that.
What? Coup. It was a coup.
Seems like it definitely worked.
You want to look outside to see what the mound of snow?
I don't know.
called?
I just checked Google Maps.
What's it called?
And there's an aerial shot of beautiful campus of NRG Media Omaha. And then in the parking lot, there's a little flag that says Mount MT Happer on Google Maps.
Well, the administration is currently working on that right now.
So
an executive order was signed yesterday.
What has been your reception to your perceived coup?
Are people asking you to scale it, to climb it?
Well, there was an arresting on the campgrounds.
There was?
Mount Happer.
Any homeless
at the end
people
of our
yet?
show today. There was some police activities on the like I said, the campgrounds of Mount McMaster.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the reception has been a lot like
Wow.
when they change the Sears Tower to the Willis Tower. You know, and now I feel like out of respect for the Willis family and the troubles that I'm going through with trying to get people to call it Mount McMaster, that I will
Wait.
now be calling it the Willis Tower.
They
Now
changed
you
the
get
name?
Now I get it.
Wait.
Now I get the
So
frustration.
you have sympathy toward the Willis family?
Kevin
Willis
Willis?
Tower, yes.
NBA champion
The
Kevin
Willis
Willis?
Tower. I have sympathy for the Willis Tower. I don't know the Willis family in particularly. I really hope I didn't say that I have sympathy toward a family that might be like a mob boss.
I have sympathy
Chicago.
towards the Bruce Willis family.
Yeah.
Seems to be a rough thing he's going through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's bad.
Yeah.
Not
John
to bring the
McClane.
show down.
Thanks,
or
Josh.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Unsportsmanlike conduct
Eeyore
is
over
next.
I thought I was trying to help
Boy.
you, but yeah,
Boy.
really Debbie Downer that, didn't I? I
that's right.
apologize.
Valentine's
Put your
Day.
hands in your pits right now.
Remember,
Jeez.
remember when he solved race relations with Samuel L. Jackson?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
But yeah, so the flag of Mount
Save New York.
McMaster. Hopefully, we don't get 50-mile-an-hour winds and a 2x1 plank from Home Depot doesn't go flying into the windshield of a family of 4 driving down Dodge. I'm really hoping that.
Now that really is bringing the crossover
yeah, that
down.
really would bring.
And that
the
would be
mood.
content. Maybe not the content we're
Jeez.
striving for, but it is content.
So today is the big SNL 50 celebration.
I thought that was Sunday.
I mean, it's tomorrow or
But
Sunday
we're
or whatever,
celebrating
but
all
there's a
weekend.
lot of content. So they rank the top 50
Mhm.
cast members and the top 50 skits
oh,
of all time.
Okay.
So the question is, who's
this is
50?
great.
Any
So-
guesses on number one?
Number one
Um,
skit.
No.
Yes,
Oh, no,
as
it's-
ranked by USA
is-
It's
Today.
cowbell, right?
It is not cowbell.
Is it sweaty balls?
It is not sweaty ball. I don't even. I'm
It-
not.
Their
To be honest
balls
with you,
are-
I'm not
they're
even
there for
familiar
pleasure.
with this.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So it's not Matt Foley. It's not Debbie Downer.
Matt Foley is number 2.
Okay.
Is it
Is it something with Keenan? He's been on there 41
No,
years.
this is from 1975.
Oh, so original. Oh.
what is it? Chevy Chase?
It's
Landshark?
word association.
Cheeseburger.
Are you guys familiar with that?
No,
In there.
I'm not. I'm not familiar. with
No.
that association.
Was it Rosanna Dana?
Does where does cowbell film that?
Okay, so 2 is Van Down by the River. 3 is Eddie Murphy, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
say.
4 is
Good one.
Cowbell.
Ooh, be a good bowl game.
Wow, how about this? A little
Oh.
sneaky. What? Sorry, what is number 1, Josh?
Word association is Chevy Chase and Richard
Pryor, but like, what did they do? Said a bad word, right?
Yeah, they said a bad word.
Richard Pryor
and,
said a few.
what is your word association when I say this word? And Richard Pryor said honky. And then Chevy Chase said a word I can't say on the
Gotcha.
radio.
Yes.
And then Richard Pryor said dead honky.
Nice.
Where does
Nice.
does the SNL 40 Celebrity Jeopardy, does that find its way on the top 50?
So number 5, it's a good one,
Yeah.
but I'm surprised it's number 5. Meet Your Second Wife.
Oh.
So Amy Poehler and Tina Fey are the hosts of this game show
Mhm.
called Meet Your Second Wife. They have all these dudes here, and then they bring out like 12-year-old girls.
Oh, that takes what
that's
I
a
was going to.
sneaky
Yeah.
Here, I was ready. We were going to find you a date for
Does
Valentine's, but
Nick
we're not going there.
Bargatze's, I know that's super recent.
I haven't really. I'm just sifting
kinda
through this
scroll.
right now.
Josh, can you pull up the top 50 cast members?
Obviously 8. Well, not obviously 8, but one of the top sketches is Celebrity Jeopardy with Burt Reynolds, aka Turd Ferguson.
Yes,
It's a big hat.
Obviously.
It's a big hat. It's funny.
I
Sweaty
love
Balls
the
at number 9.
Sean Connery.
Top 10.
Lay Blank Now. It was like Let It Snow. He goes Lay Blank
A
Now.
blank in a box, number 12.
That's a great one. There's one of Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake's Bring It On Down to Pleasantville. Does that make it on the list?
I'm not sure. Good question.
I have all the niche ones. I feel like I'm hitting it out of the park right now with like 42, 43, 44. Really can't hit the
top 50.
Top 15 at number 14, Black Jeopardy with Tom Hanks.
Yes,
that's
that
a very
one's
good
a
one.
great
Very good
one.
Where it turns out he's the MAGA guy, but he actually has agreements with just about everybody.
It is so funny. He's
really
like,
well done.
I'll just have you have duck sauce, soy sauce, safety pins, the packet drawer. You know,
Sound like the SEC network.
Close Encounter, which is the one where Ryan Gosling can't keep it together because Kate McKinnon has been violated by an alien, and she's telling the story about how she's been violated by an alien.
And who hasn't? I've seen Fire in the Sky.
That one's a really good. Does the Kanye going off script at the end of the show? Does that?
I don't think that qualifies as a skit.
As a skit.
I thought it was last week on Twitter.
He went off script.
He
that's
did.
for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of off scripting for Kanye West nowadays. I think that's probably what he does best. That's probably his next album.
I need to familiarize myself with some of these that happened before I was born.
I mean, you said cowbell, but that's been the only Will Ferrell skit that you've said. I feel like
I mean the Celebrity Jeopardy.
Sure, that's another one. I feel like any of the Harry Carey ones, like any of the Harry Carey impressions.
Would you eat the moon if it was made of spare ribs?
Yeah, exactly.
And the answer is yes.
Would you eat if the moon was made of spare ribs?
This one isn't on the top 50 list, but when it's Harry Carey and it's O.J. Simpson. And they're breaking down the football game, and then OJ spells out "I did it" on the prompter.
Yeah, I don't think that you would probably, because I don't recognize a lot of the top 50.
Out my phone. I think I do a pretty good job. Do you have the cast members?
I do have the cast member list up.
I think number one would have to be just out of like tradition, probably Chevy Chase.
Not Nora.
Number 50, by the way, on the skits list goes to David Pumpkins.
Oh, that's a good one.
I always liked David Pumpkins, but feels like an interesting mention at top 50.
It does that, and I'm not allowed to talk about it.
It does. Wait, what? What'd you say?
His microphone does that, and I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
You'll just have to hold it for the rest of the segment.
Cool. Honestly, I do better as a Pat McAfee than I do as like an actual broadcaster. So.
Number one,
David Pumpkins was okay. David Pumpkins, though, like it wasn't my type of comedy.
Some interesting.
That was a
comedy
phenomenon for like 2 or 3 Halloweens.
It became a book.
Yeah.
Didn't they write a David Pumpkins book? And like people like it became a popular it was a really like your classic suburban dad costume. Like they would just like you would see multiple because where I grew up was very suburban. You would see multiple...
I thought it was the mean streets of Skokie.
No. I grew up. There's no such thing as the mean streets of Skokie.
I thought it was the Detroit of the Chicagoland area.
The mean streets of Skokie means that a bagel costs $3.50 as opposed to $2.75.
So what was your guess as the number one cast member?
Chevy Chase or Will Ferrell is probably or Matt Farley.
Matt Farley, not a person.
Or Chris Farley.
Terrell Farley, definitely a
Will
person.
Ferrell in the top 5, but you're missing it. I mean, this guy was always going to be number one.
Belushi.
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Murphy number 1. Number 2 is a bit of a surprise, I'd say.
It wasn't like with Eddie Murphy, and I'm not going to act as if I'm an expert on this, and
I've
watched all the Eddie Murphy skits, but I just laughed more.
You prefer him as Dr. Dolittle?
Yeah, and not as Axel Foley.
Eddie Murphy to me, and this is weird, and maybe I'm in the minority here in terms of my generation, but he was more of like I remember him for the stand-up comedy and not necessarily like I don't attribute him to like movies and acting.
Eddie Murphy Raw, great family program.
Yeah,
because when you were coming up, he wasn't in movies, and they were children's movies that were terrible.
The only one that I remember him from is remember watching an Eddie Murphy movie for the first time was Heist. Where they get all these guys together and they end up stealing a car from an apartment that's full of gold. Like that's the only Eddie Murphy movie I was like, oh, I'm sitting down and watching Eddie Murphy. But like,
You need to watch 48 Hours tonight.
Beverly Hills Cop and Trading Places and Coming to America
good one,
are
man.
all incredible films, and I love them all.
These are date
But
movies.
I watched Delirious, I watched Heat, I watched Raw. Like, my dad loved those, and so I was like 9 years old, and I was watching that.
Once again,
stuff,
shout
which
out
probably
Dad.
wasn't great parenting. But I don't associate him immediately with SNL. I associate Will Ferrell with SNL.
Interesting addition in the
Where does Seth Meyers rank in the top 50?
22.
22.
Oh, I'm just throwing a number.
It
out.
is.
He did not get number 22.
Where does Seth Meyers rank, and why is
41.
it too high? 41.
You know, if he was a college basketball team, he'd be in the tournament.
Now, I wonder if they also include, like, because he's been a writer for the show for a very long
Sure.
time.
What if Bill Hader isn't higher than Seth Meyers? I'm gonna have. A
He
problem.
is.
Okay, where is he?
He is
40.
20. Like, he should be in the top 24.
He is in the top 20, number 19.
Perfect. Great.
But the one I was going to say, interesting, new one, newer one, I guess, behind Bill Hader at number 20 is Cecily Strong.
No way.
Oh.
No way.
Oh.
We're
Top
not,
20 all time, right in front of Sandler.
no way.
Oh,
No way.
I got
We're
Sandler.
not giving away Nick Collison hanging banners over here.
Yes.
Okay, just because you're there for a long time does not mean
Yeah.
that. Like, Kenan Thompson has been there for a long time. Don't get me wrong.
He and
But
Warren
he's had
Michaels
great
went to
skits.
school together.
Like, he's been funny. Is there one Cecily Strong skit that you're like, oh my god, I can't forget it?
She's always
Louis Chambane.
She's always in the big ones.
That's a great one.
But I don't
True.
ever feel like she's like the main player in the
She's
big
a
ones.
role player.
Yeah.
She hits the big shot late.
Yeah.
Cecily
Yes.
Strong being ahead
Like
of Adam
Robert Ory,
Sandler
if you will.
is
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah, I
Her-
got Sandler
like
17 and a half.
Lunch Lady. Lunch Lady
Mhm.
isn't even close to be like it's one of his top 5 skits. It surpasses anything that she's ever done. Nothing Cecily Strong has done is even close to one of the top 5 of Adam
So in her
Sandler's.
paragraph describing her SNL time, it mentions that she was a Weekend Update host, which I forgot. Which
Same.
I mean,
Yeah.
Very briefly,
So
right?
is Colin Quinn.
yeah.
I see. Colin Quinn was my Weekend Update host when I was growing up. I was like, that was my guy. Turns out he was not funny.
No, he wasn't.
He was not. He was not funny at
It
all.
was
But
only for 1 year.
he was the guy that I like. When I think of Weekend Update and watching that show as a child, I think Colin Quinn.
So my Weekend Update was Seth Meyers.
Not bad.
I
had Kevin Nealon.
But I like
better.
Yeah.
all the
Norm followed
all
Kevin
my
Nealon.
favorite
better.
Weekend Update with Seth Meyers has nothing to do with Seth Meyers jokes and has everything to do with
What about when he threw the pencil at the camera? Or
Yeah.
was that Fallon?
I think that might have been Fallon.
And Letterman.
But like my favorite Weekend Update skits with Seth Meyers was because of Bill Hader and Stefan and Jason Sudeikis and the Devil. Do you guys remember though? Like
What
Jason
do the
Sudeikis would
Chiefs
come
have to
on
do
and
with
he would
this?
be the devil. It was so good. So fun.
Man, I bet the devil
And then he
was
did it
upset
when
Sunday.
he hosted, like when he did because of what was the soccer coach that he played again?
Ted Lasso?
Ted Lasso.
Believe.
Tracy Morgan. Thoughts on Tracy Morgan?
Good.
I enjoy him. I understand why not everyone
Yeah.
does.
I would have Tracy Morgan in SNL higher than he is.
Like them on-
Fellows. Robert Fellows.
Brian Fellows. Brian Fellows.
Yeah, Brian Fellows.
I'm Brian Fellows.
Where's
That was it. They're just like, let's put Tracy Morgan up here and show him a bunch of animals.
There's no way that rabbit cut its own hair.
Where's
the-
Dana Carvey on
He's got to be pretty high.
number
Sort of
11.
always the sidekick. I guess he
Yeah.
did play the president.
Wayne's World
And the church lady.
Number
Mhm. Yeah.
11.
He's 11.
11?
Dana Carvey.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number
Wow,
11.
good for Dana.
Wins
Is
9,
there
10
did
games
they
a
make
year.
a top 50 host too, or is it?
I don't
just-
know.
I'm sure.
They had a lot of
You
stuff
got
going
to
on.
do top 50 host, right?
Walken would be in the top 10.
Tom
just on-
Hanks,
Tom Hanks, I think
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake. Obviously, I would do. I mean, like, does Alec Baldwin and Chris Martin do they get a ton of credit? And Martin Short, like, how much credit do they get for how many times they did it?
Chris Martin. You mean Coldplay?
Or not
Coldplay Chris Martin? Steve Martin.
Steve Martin.
He
How much
was-
like I don't know. Like, I don't think
King
I don't,
Tut is a banger.
but I think Chappelle is a great host, but he hasn't really done it enough. For
Yeah,
it to
but
be
when
like-
Chappelle is the host, it's now it's just it's like, whoa, Chappelle is the host.
yeah,
And it's not like I don't know. They're funny, but the story is like, whoa, Chappelle says.
And then the monologue is like 15 minutes.
Yes.
Chappelle.
And he's smoking a cigarette.
Chris Rock.
I think John
Brent
Mulaney.
Kessman.
I know it's recent, but I think John Mulaney and his. I mean, I think he's already done it 5 times.
Part of the 5-timers.
I think that he's. Yeah, the 5-timers club is an all-time.
I have a list of top hosts.
Okay.
Who'd this come from?
This comes from Gold Derby. Came out this week. So
okay.
Steve Martin, number 1.
Yeah, and then Alec Baldwin,
yep,
two,
number
probably,
2.
and then Eddie Murphy, probably 3.
Hanks is 3. Okay. Betty White is 4.
Jeez.
One-time host.
Rest in peace.
Was it that good?
She won an Emmy for it.
The Golden Girls were
enough.
amazing.
Richard Pryor, number 5, one-time host there as well. Christopher Walken, 6.
Walking.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Walken
underrated.
I'm walking here.
Melissa McCarthy, number 7. Justin Timberlake, number 8.
McCarthy over Timberlake? Get the heck out of here.
John Goodman, number 9. John Hamm rounds out the top 10.
Ooh,
John Goodman was underrated as a host.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Gyllenhaal? Is he in there? Jake Gyllenhaal. Or has Jake Gyllenhaal hosted, or is he just...
That would be a prerequisite.
He's like found his way. I don't know if he's hosted or he's just.
Well, why do you want to include him on a top 50 list if you don't know who he's hosted?
I don't know, but I feel like anytime I watch an SNL skit that I really, really like, Jake Gyllenhaal's just there, but he's never a
I'm
cast member.
almost sure that he's hosted the show before.
Jake Gyllenhaal's a funny guy.
Many people are saying this.
Has Jake Gyllenhaal hosted SNL? Yes. January 13th, 2007, the 10th episode and first show of 2007 of season 32. With the
Bears were
musical
on the way to
guest,
the Super Bowl.
The Shins.
Is one of the Bears segments on the top 50 segments?
Super fans has to be.
Has to be classic.
I closed that, but yeah, I think so.
3 athletes make if you want to
Peyton Manning
to sports.
Peyton Manning.
Yep. One-time host, March of 07.
Jeter.
16 is where Peyton Manning landed on this list. The
Jordan
highest
was
of any athlete.
Kind of funny.
Dirk Jeter's Taco Hole.
Jordan is the other one. He did that
Stuart
Smalley one. Yep, that was he is 28th. He was also just a one-time host.
Did your boy Justin James Watt make the list?
No, he's not funny or interesting in any way. 5-time host Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Our future president.
Doesn't count as an athlete.
Clocks.
Whoa,
he's muscular.
Whoa.
He has big muscles.
25.
He's a wrestler. He's a final boss to you, too. You watch your mouth, Connor Happer, when you talk about the final boss.
What do you mean? What's final boss?
He's the final boss.
Has there been more changes here?
Character.
Oh.
So
the final boss.
No Jeets. No Jeets.
My child yesterday.
Oh, my child.
Comes up to me and he starts spouting off all of these facts about The Rock that I didn't know he knew. And he said, "Dad, that picture of Black Adam in our storybook, it's a cartoon drawing of Black Adam."
Yeah.
He goes, "That Black Adam doesn't have hair. The Rock is Black Adam."
Oh, sure.
And he doesn't have hair. I'm like, "Oh,
that was a failure.
How did you know that?" Okay, great. And he said, The Rock never won a championship. And I go, "Oh, yes, he did. Let's watch."
Let's watch.
Oh, so you had to give him a history lesson?
Yeah,
son.
A little bit.
And
he only knows New Rock.
You showed him My Way.
You guys gonna watch Ballers this weekend?
You didn't show him My Way?
Maybe.
Ballers would be great.
Yeah.
Rob Corddry.
No,
It'd be great. It'd be great for one season.
If you know, you know. You gotta watch Stone Cold, The Rock, My Way, Limp Bizkit.
He was pretty legendary in Moana.
Yeah,
he was.
Chee-hoo! I like that movie. I like Moana. Poll question.
Good movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you like Moana.
That's a good movie.
We did a poll question
Thank
today.
you. Everyone should say that. Everyone should say that they like Moana.
Our poll question was: Are potato wedges fries?
I saw that. I would say yes.
Same.
Yeah.
I said
version.
yes, but it was misheard from Peter because I was saying I was talking about the Greek potatoes that come like, are those considered fries?
Oh.
Your flag is gone by the way.
Oh no.
Oh. No, it just
it's laying down.
Oh, just
It just fell.
Okay.
It's gone limp.
You better go out there and stick it in.
Happy
On
Valentine's Day.
really?
Which is today.
Are you gonna show him Rock Hogan?
We love on this show.
Montreal?
Josh has
Might have
many
to.
Valentine's Day greetings cards that are going to be available for purchase. Right?
Oh, this is true. Yes.
Yeah, I am.
Mhm.
I am going out tonight, but it's not like a Valentine's Day thing.
Yet.
Going out. So that'll be fun.
Cool.
With a
Or
with a
will
lady
there be a
friend?
woman?
With a lady friend.
Okay.
But it's not Valentine's Day.
It's
she know
not
yet. It's
Valentine's
Just an
Day.
average night.
Is that what she told you, huh?
I don't think
This is a test. You
that's
realize that.
possible.
Yeah.
Because it is Valentine's Day.
But we were like,
get some.
Oh, you guys both agreed?
We just happened to be going out on Valentine's Day.
Well, that's part of the deal.
Matt, this is a disaster.
Yeah.
Oh,
Get
no,
you
where's
some
the disaster?
chocolate.
Where is that?
So I realized what happened was I wanted to wait because I was waiting for the right moment to bring it up with a crossover because this is the appropriate form.
And this is the crossover. Presented by Everlove.
So I did not know it was Valentine's Day when we were doing the dates. And so I kind of Ryan Howard myself into this occasion. And I was just like, oh, let's go out Friday.
At least
because
Ron
I
Howard.
can't go out Saturday and you can't go out Sunday. So let's just do Friday. And she's like, you are aware that it is Valentine's Day on Friday. And I'm like,
Is
I
that
am
still a
aware,
thing?
but we can still go out. And so I was like, and we were joking about like, oh, it's just an average day. Like, it's, it's just an average little go out thing and all that. Am I sorely mistaken here? Do I have to go and buy some chocolates and flowers?
Chocolates, KY,
you
flowers,
already screwed up.
The basics.
Tongue-in-cheek type deal.
She does. It may not be a Valentine's thing, but she is
It's a
judging
Valentine's
how
thing, yeah.
above and beyond you go
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah, no pressure. Get thee to Adam and Eve immediately.
Jeez.
Whoa, hello.
I was just thinking going to Target and getting like a rose.
Hey, Target is
or a
everything now.
flower,
One rose.
One rose.
Singular rose.
One flower.
One damn
flower.
rose.
one dandelion.
That might do it. I don't know.
I love how you've conceded. Like, I don't know dating nowadays. I don't know what's going on.
Tell her you have your own mountain.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard. I have my own.
I
mountain.
have my own mountain.
Tell her that people definitely call it that.
Yeah.
Would you like to scale Mount McMaster?
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
What do you mean Matt got canceled? What did he do?
I did not. I got canceled. You had a line today that could have gotten us canceled.
Whoa, hey. Well, then don't bring it back.
Yeah,
up.
don't talk about it
I
now.
don't know what
then.
you're talking about. I am a
Oh, I gotta
church-going,
text him
God-fearing man.
Mm.
And I'm married.
Oh,
As
thank
was
God.
Tom Brenneman.
I got it. Jeez.
It's true.
I consider
Consider myself a man of faith.
a man of faith.
The moral of that story is just
I
stick to
got a
barbecue.
text message for a second, and I really freaked out that it was.
that it's her.
Yeah.
Oh, did we ever guess her name successfully?
No.
Lacey? Underall?
No.
Christina.
Well,
Bonnie?
technically, this is
Esther.
a different one. So.
Oh.
What in the hell is
Oh,
going on
okay.
over there?
Just call him
Actually,
STD. He gets around.
I don't know. We'd have to go through the list again.
Your black book.
Jesus. No, not a black book.
All right.
Just
All right,
notes app.
Fonz.
I was shocked he understood the reference.
Same.
I'm glad that you're getting to know the community.
You are. And that's one way to do it.
You're educating people about Gary and Matt one person at a time.
Yeah. It's
We're
called
really-
word of
we're-
mouth.
We're really getting a new listenership
That's right. They're definitely all listening. Yes.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they think I work in marketing.
Well, enjoy that.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Enjoy that.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Run the ball.
Thank you.
Run the damn ball.
Mhm.
I look forward to whatever shenanigans you have planned today.
Especially in about 9 months.
No, I'm taking a nap. I'm tired.
All right.
Get that nap.
I'm tired, but I do have to go outside and reestablish Mount McMaster as soon as
Sure.
I can.
Sure.
That is the number one priority.
It'll definitely work.
Yeah.
People.
Number one priority is establishing Mount McMaster.
People are definitely into this, and they're absolutely calling it that. So I think your plan is working.
Mm-hmm.
It's sounds like it's doing really well.
I think Mayor Gene's going to go do a speech on top of that.
Connor, I hate the person you choose to be.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
I don't know what you're doing, but it's working. Let's just say it's working.
You
I
sh-
can't.
You shouldn't say hate. There are kids listening.
All right. You guys have great afternoons.
Boys, you two have a wonderful show.
That is the crossover powered by Every Level Concrete Repair in Omaha at everylevelconcrete.com. It is Friday. We'll start things off next.
Blackjack.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday. It's the Connor Happer Show. You're on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, Josh Hodson with you. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day. We love, don't we, folks?
Radio guy topic. Valentine's Day, Husker football. Let's see what would you do? Which Nebraska wide receiver would you want to make Dylan Raiola's Valentine this year?
Good one.
Something like that. We'll definitely have that topic today on the show.
And it wouldn't be a Millard North basketball player.
They won last night, right?
Overtime.
The Stangs.
Yeah.
They beat Westview. That's
right.
Which I have to adjust is still a high school. Is a high school now.
They're very good, Connor.
They're very good. All right, so welcome to a Friday show, everybody. Today we will talk with our good friends, Brian Christopherson, talk about some Husker basketball, football with him. Steve Sipple will join at 12:30, BC at 11:30. No Munson today, under the weather.
Oh, no.
He's got the same thing that all of our local basketball teams apparently have, sickness. He was like, I didn't want to really come on today and cough all over you guys virtually or through the phone. And I was like, okay.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's the lineup, powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. We'd love to hear from you all, 402-951-1620 on the hotline. You could call or text that number. Tweet at Happer Show, at Connor Happer, on the JTech Constructions on Twitter feed. Email Connor Josh Show at 1620thezone.com on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox. And we say good morning to the YouTube streamers today, where O-Trips is still speaking in Russian.
This is a very weird thing that has gone very, very viral.
I was wondering when Creighton would return to America, but it maybe hasn't happened yet. We'll see. It was a great day for Creighton Twitter yesterday.
It was
a great day for the burner community.
They're going to talk about this for the next 10 years.
So the only thing that's left, I think, to mention is, or to get in there is like a reference to what happened yesterday on the actual Creighton basketball account in the pregame on Sunday at MSG. Welcome to Russia, welcome to the Gulag, or whatever it might be.
Oh, welcome to the Gulag would be good.
Yeah.
We're rushing to MSG today as they depart on the plane or something like that. I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I don't know if that's coming, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe there's an acknowledgement. Maybe there's not. We'll see in the coming days. And we get a YouTube comment from Mike. Where are all the Nebraska fans at now, always saying Creighton is sick? No, but I think they're mad. If I'm to get this straight, I think they're mad at us for always saying that the people are sick.
Oh, excuse making.
Excuses.
Nebraska station making excuses.
Nebraska had a couple players that were sick last night, and they played through it. And honestly, it looked like they were sick.
It did.
It looked like Bryce Williams was sick. So Juwan Gary kind of had the team on his back, just keeping him in that thing. And then Maryland just had, I believe Fred Hoiberg called it, he used a word and then he said shot making, like intense or I believe it was extreme shot making. And they had some extreme shot making. There was the one where the guy was trying to go in and draw contact and flew away from the basket, did not get fouled, threw it up in the general vicinity of the hoop and made it. It was a tough loss last night for Nebraska, but nothing hurt, I don't think, in my opinion. Anyway, unless you're somebody on the text line who's texting into us right now.
Oh no.
So help me understand. Creighton loses at home as a ranked team to an unranked team and doesn't move in the net. Unranked Nebraska loses at home to a ranked Maryland team and drops 2 spots. Make it make sense.
Yeah, basketball nerd, Connor Happer.
So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the rankings, you're referencing the AP poll, have nothing to do with the net rankings. Just so we're clear on that. And
Interesting.
moving 2 spots is nothing.
Oh my gosh, 2 whole spots.
It's nothing. So
Nebraska ball fan, you cannot live and die with the net over the next month.
I don't know if you guys were like expecting me to come in and be like trash Nebraska basketball today because they lost at home to a good team. That's not happening.
With 1 player injured, 2 players sick.
Yeah.
Valiant effort. I'm not going to do any bits today about Nebraska ball.
No, I'm like it's unfortunate that they fell short at the end of it, but like I said, the other team just like they made shots. And it wasn't even necessarily that Nebraska didn't. They didn't make a couple down the stretch, obviously, but like that's what it comes down to in close games. And you fell victim to a team who shot over 55% from the field last night. Like, I don't know. I didn't feel like Nebraska's defensive effort and intensity was lacking that led to all these things. I just felt like they made them. You could tell there's some nuance that goes in there. So we'll talk about the Huskers here in just a couple minutes, and we'll ask why. We'll ask what is the deal with the weirdo Maryland video that they put out after the game with the corn man and the cornfield? Why do people what's up with the corn stuff?
Okay, I think I may have an explanation for this.
Okay,
your general question was like, why do teams like dunking on Nebraska?
Yeah.
Because
hold on, we'll just give each 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll do that on the other side. I want to set the table here real quick.
I think I got some.
So there's that. Creighton heads to MSG with first place officially on the line against St. John's. A couple things that I agree with or do not agree with that happened in the one list that came out from The Athletic. And they also ranked coordinator hires, and I think they posed a couple interesting questions. Nebraska made the rankings, of course. They changed all their coordinators.
Everybody did.
Apparently, everybody changed their coordinators. I was on a Big Ten wide, most of the schools had like representatives, and we were like going through all the things that happened, and everyone was like, "Yeah, they had big coordinator changes," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, Nebraska had big coordinator changes. Everybody had huge coordinator changes this offseason. In lieu of head coaches getting fired anymore, coordinators are changing at a crazy, crazy pace and rate. So we can talk about that as we go on throughout the show today. I can't understand why people care about the Nebraska changing their concession provider, but that's a question that we'll pose to the people today.
Okay.
That was officially announced yesterday. And happy college baseball opening day to all who celebrate.
We made it, folks.
Hey, you look outside and you're like, yes, this is baseball.
Bing!
This is baseball. Baseball will be played in the state soon, but not for the next 3 weekends.
Probably for the best.
Definitely for the best. Nebraska heads out to Phoenix. They get UC Irvine today at 2:00. Creighton heads out to UNC Greensboro for a doubleheader today. And Omaha is at Tulane for 3 this weekend. True roadies for both Creighton and Omaha, Nebraska, and a little showcase series. Vanderbilt coming up in there, so there's some good opponents on their side, and important, which means it's important to grab a couple wins this weekend, right? You're going to need it for that old RPI or whatever the hell they look at. Do they do net RPI in baseball? I think they're still on RPI. Baseball falls like several years short behind the. They'll get with the times eventually. We're still on the RPI.
Let's be the Evan Maya of college baseball.
Oh, I think we can do that.
Okay.
We just throw it all together. Offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency. Yeah, I think we have the technology and the steady hands.
Spit a graphic out every Monday.
Yeah. So that is the setup for today's show. And like I said, we'd love to hear from you all on this Valentine's Day. I hope everybody enjoys Josh's Valentine's Day cards that'll be flashed up on the YouTube stream during our breaks today. There's a couple in particular that I very much enjoy.
You'll know it when you see it.
You'll know it when you see it. Those will be good. And yeah, anything you guys got for us, we're happy to take it. BC and Sipple will join. Let's come back and we'll talk about Nebraska basketball's night last night that fell short against Maryland. They go on the road to Northwestern on Sunday. And I don't know that anything really changes after the loss last night, but you still are in a situation where you're going to have to pick up some wins here. So it's kind of a sneak. It's a big. They're all big. Each game is a 1-game season, I think, for this point. So Nebraska would love to go to Northwestern and take care of some business on Sunday. And I believe that's a quad 1 opportunity, right? If we're still quadding these days.
Well, what's Northwestern ranked
in the net? I think they're in the
in the AP top 25.
Doesn't matter. But thank you for the question. Northwestern is 59 in the net.
Oh, that's a lot better than I thought.
Really? I mean, you're in the Big Ten. I think you automatically get placed in like the top 80.
That's true.
Let's see. Who is the lowest ranked Big Ten team in the net?
Minnesota.
That would be my guess. It is
nailed it. I know ball.
100. So you're immediately guaranteed top 100 just for having close proximity to teams in the Big Ten Conference.
I'm going to guess Omaha is lower than 100.
Omaha is indeed lower than 100. Okay. Omaha is 202.
Oh, goodness.
I mean,
that's disrespect.
But once again, proximity to the people. If you play the good teams, you are going to go up in the rankings, whether you win or lose. If you don't, then it's going to be hard to do so. Rather, depending on whether you win or lose. Anyway, off and running here on this Friday. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone. John Bishop has seen his own Valentine's greeting.
Good. I like that. Hi, John.
Now, take people behind the curtain a little bit. Or some people in the comments asking, why didn't you make an Evan Burrows joke here? Josh, can you tell people why?
So during the commercials, we have Valentines for all of our hosts today. John says whatever Russian text is on the screen means I love you in Russian. And it actually does mean that is I love you in Russian.
Yeah,
I went to
Google
Translate.
Yeah. Google Translate has been the most used thing in Omaha the last day.
Really, you're going to see the spike on the Google graph. But many people asking why I didn't make an Evan Burrows joke. Because every time I wrote one, it ended up being very crass. And we're a classy station. We're the least horny show on 1620 The Zone.
But it is Valentine's Day.
It is.
Like, if you wanted to make an alternate behind-the-scenes card, it probably would have said something regarding Evan Burrows sucking.
It would have,
on Valentine's Day.
That's what I came up with every time.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do this in good conscience.
Yeah. And so you went to the low-hanging fruit of the day, which is good. I think it worked out well. But just know, commenters, that was on the table at one point.
I tried.
Yeah. Another piece of good news. Runza.
Yes. Today's the day, right?
Runza has announced that the Italian Runza is now available for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, only 2 weeks?
You have 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm going to eat so much Runza.
Now through the final day of February, February 28th, you can now get the Italian Runza. Ground beef, Italian sausage, black olives, mushrooms, mozzarella, marinara. I don't think that I
don't remember mushrooms being in there.
I don't think I've indulged in the Italian Runza. I'm interested though. I tried different. I never got around to the breakfast Runza when they did the breakfast Runza because I didn't want to wait in the drive-through line that jutted out to major arteries of whatever town you're in.
That's right.
So yeah, I've only had regular and cheese to this point in my life, I think. Oh, and the Philly cheesesteak, which I think is pretty good. Charles says this is better than the McRib. Well, you get 2 weeks. You get 2 weeks to get to 2 weeks to get to Runza and get the Italian Runza. There you go. That's free plug for Runza and our boys over there.
They should advertise on the station, though.
Yes, but I don't know. They kind of got to go. They kind of are their own machine.
Can always be bigger.
It can always be bigger. If you want some more reach, hit us up. Absolutely, we'd love to talk about Runza.
We're huge in Russia.
That's true. If you want to reach all the way out,
you want a St. Petersburg location? You want a Moscow location?
This might be your entry point.
Yep.
This may be your entry point. All right. Last night, Nebraska basketball. We got a email first regarding Nebraska basketball. John.
Hi, John.
The Equitable Bank inbox. So every time Creighton loses, Kalkbrenner is sick, but Nebraska having 2 players sick has nothing to do with the loss. Who said that, by the way? Got it. Creighton Medical School should probably up its game and keep Kalkbrenner healthy since this is the only reason they lose because he's sick.
What?
I think that was sarcastic. I think that was sarcastic. I think.
Why don't you let us give the take before you critique the take?
I said it looks clearly like they were sick, and I do think that had probably a little bit to do with the loss. It just felt like Nebraska ran out of gas is probably the wrong term. Like I thought they were right there, and then the other team made shots more at the end. Sometimes them's the breaks, man. Like it's kind of what UConn did to Creighton the other night.
Gosh, it's the exact same thing you said about Creighton.
Yeah, like that's kind of just what happens sometimes. The other team gets super hot, and there's nothing you could do about it. They were mega hot last night, and as evidenced by making all their shots down the stretch, and really making all their shots throughout the majority of the game. Maryland shoots 24 of 38 on 2-pointers. That's 63%. And 7 for 15 on 3-pointers, which is just under 47%. They made 14 out of 18 free throws. They got themselves 9 offensive rebounds. They with that being said, Nebraska didn't help themselves out on the boards too much. Maryland got a couple extra possessions out of that, and still, Nebraska hung in there all the way until the end. So I thought it was a heck of an effort. You got guys that are sick. Berkey's out. Mia was playing big minutes, just kind of drudging around the floor. I think he played 12 out of 20 minutes in the first half. I mean, that's wild minutes for Braxton Mia, who just hasn't played a lot lately. And I thought they were effective.
Next man up.
I thought that they were effective, to be honest with you. I just thought Maryland answered all the bells at the end of the game, especially when it was a one-possession game late. They kind of went back and forth there for a little bit, and Maryland answered all the calls. I don't think there's any shame in that at all, whether it's at home or on the road. You'll look back on it and say, man, that's an opportunity that we could have had, but sometimes the other team just makes the shots. So now you're in the grind. You're on the road at Northwestern on Sunday. You got to find a way to, whether it's get healthy, get unsick, or find the energy to be able to win in a road environment on Sunday in Chicago. And then on the road at Penn State midweek next week before coming back home with a big game against Michigan on Monday. And so you kind of look at it in this 4-game stretch, Maryland being the first of the 4, and Nebraska probably needs to get 2 to hold pace, right? So you got 3 opportunities to get 2 here coming up in the next, 10 days.
They need 4 by the end of the season, right?
I think so.
20 is the number,
but it's
right?
also like it's still who you lose to and who you beat. At the same time, it's not like there's this gigantic wide variance of the quality of teams that you're going to be playing. Minnesota at home would be a rough one to swallow.
Yeah, don't lose that one. Everything else you could probably explain away.
Right, but however you cut it, like Josh said, you find a way to get 3 or 4 out of your last 7 games, 6 games, and you're going to have an opportunity to get into the NCAA tournament. Keep in mind, like I think you'll find today when they put out all the brackets and stuff that Nebraska will likely not have moved much at all last night. Now they would have to play their way back onto the bubble at this point. According to everything that I've seen, they're on the right side of it at this moment. So don't play yourself back onto it. Don't let it get too close in the latter portion of the season here. And from that perspective, you're like, oh man, we played generally well enough to win the game last night. It's unfortunate that we didn't take advantage of that opportunity, but I mean, I don't think any differently about this team than I did going into yesterday. Even though their 4-game losing streak was snapped, kudos.
Winning streak.
Winning streak. I thought Bryce Williams was pretty rough early and then found a way to get involved in the game. Couple turnovers early and then found a way to get involved and made some shots. And Essien just can't get anything to really go right now.
It's not like it was early in the season for him.
No. So Essien right now, over the last 4, including last night, he had the 4 threes against Washington, but in the game last night, he's 0-4 from 3, only played 9 minutes. He seemed the more sick maybe of the two. Ohio State, he made 1 out of 4, and Oregon, he missed both of his 3-point attempts in 11 minutes. All right, so if that guy's going to come off the bench and be a player for you guys, like for Nebraska, he's got to make some of these shots. He's a big catalyst to what they do. With that being said, Juwan Gary, I thought, was fantastic last night. Made a few threes. Every time he lines up for one, I'm like, ooh, hang on, and then he made a few last night.
It's nice to have that oh yes thing back.
And I thought Andrew Morgan was really good. Andrew Morgan and Braxton Mia were really good against those posts last night, even though they got, Queen had 24 and Reese had 13, and those two combined shot 14 of 17 from 2-point range and made 9 free throws as well. So those guys were productive So, but it's, Nebraska, could they match them sort of on the offensive end because of what they didn't have in the post defense underneath? And I thought for the most part they did. Like, seriously, nothing lost from that game last night except for like the loss, but that's it.
And then there were people just on Twitter last night like, oh, no moral victories. This one hurts. This one stings. You're going to want this one. Like, you're fine.
Yeah, it's really okay.
You're fine. Yeah, you want to win every game you play. I get that. But
so my final question here in this segment is, and maybe we continue this on into the next one. So the Maryland video that they put out after the game with the guy in the cornfield with the N logo over his face and him just saying, basically a bunch of like farmer things, like here's corn, or I don't even know what it was a very weird 22 seconds or whatever it was. But people just love apparently dunking on Nebraska. Maybe it's because of the meme.
That's my guess.
Is this meme retaliation?
We know if you would have beaten us, we would have got memed into the center of the earth.
Yeah.
So we're counter striking with something of our own after the game.
Is that what you were going to say before?
That is what I was going to say. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Off there.
No, that's okay. That's got to be what it is, right?
I guess so.
For the 48 hours in between games, you're like, oh, we got to think of something. We got to think of something to dunk on them because they're going to dunk on us.
People love taking the low hanging fruit on the corn thing.
Oh yeah.
Teams from the state of Nebraska. What's the problem with corn? I don't get what people's problem with being surrounded by cornfields are. It's great. I love it. We produce.
I don't mind
food
it.
For all a nation.
We got to be more known nationwide for something.
Corn.
Well, I know that's the thing, but
we want something else.
We got to find something and really, as a state, push that.
I say we keep the corn. I say it's corn.
Like, what if like Kool-Aid?
I mean, they're the corn huskers.
Yeah, that's probably part of it too.
Yeah, I have no problem with this. I like that Nebraska is associated with corn. I just don't know why corn is a thing that people dunk on.
You love corn.
Do people hate corn? Does Maryland dislike corn?
I'll bet there's some.
Imagine hating corn.
Imagine not eating cornbread or corn with your crab cakes.
I don't think people eat cornbread with their crab cakes.
I don't know. I was just trying something. Is there corn in your hush puppies with your crab cakes?
I mean, probably corn. There's a corn base maybe to it, but what's there to make fun of? It's corn. Mm-hmm. As the little kid in that video said that one time. Teresa writes in.
Hi, Teresa.
Kind of like Nebraska women's basketball over Maryland last night. 34-point turnaround. They have these games like 2 or 3 times a year where they'll play a really good team and you don't think, you're like, oh boy, we're stretching right now. I don't know what's going to happen. And then they just make every shot. That's clearly in the bag for them. You can expect it every game, but man, that was a heck of a win. And might just, punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament.
Didn't see Scott Van Pelt talking about that game.
Interesting, Scott.
Where were you?
Interesting, Scott.
Thought we were supporting women.
In Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Are they not Maryland? Just because they lost to the Corns?
Do you kick them out every time they lose? Interesting.
Fascinating. All right. We'll be back. Still plenty to cover. If you guys have any thoughts on Nebraska basketball, we'd love to hear them. Back after this on 1620 The Zone.
let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Jimmy writes in on YouTube.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, all. Long time. Happy overrated holiday to you all. I don't think you're allowed to say that.
You don't think so?
I mean, you might think it, but saying it out loud puts you in a bad position. Puts you in a bad spot. Doesn't it?
It can, I guess. Sure.
Overrated. Like, does anybody really love Valentine's? Well, I shouldn't say that either.
My son.
He does?
Oh, yeah. He got a bunch of candy at school yesterday.
Oh, that's right. Are they back to doing that? I know that got put on pause for a little. I remember some big hubbub however many years ago.
It was called COVID.
Yeah, I think that was it. Right, but they stopped letting the kids deliver Valentines or something like that.
You have to give one to everybody.
Oh, you have to give one to everybody.
You don't write two. You don't write two on it. You just write from. And then, and then you just give one to everybody.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Do you agree with this move?
I guess it's fine. It's probably quickest and the least painful for
the
teachers.
Most certainly the least painful. But I would argue that it's good to be introduced to that pain early in life.
It can harden you, but it can also break you.
It can also break you. Yeah, you don't want to be broken emotionally at that age. It's tough.
Got so much life left.
Yeah, exactly. Yesterday from The Athletic, they ranking college football's most intriguing coordinator moves. So, as I said before, there has been a lot of them. Everybody's got new coordinators. Intriguing, ranked upon the most intriguing. Ohio State is, of course, number one, probably because they're Ohio State and because of the coordinators that they lost, Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles. They replaced them with Brian Hartline, and we haven't talked about this yet, Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia rolled into Columbus with that pencil in his ear and is like, I'm here to call some defense. Do we have any evidence that this is good?
No. He's going to be writing on that laminated play sheet.
Yeah. I mean, he was a very, very bad head coach with the Detroit Lions.
Terrible.
And he has mostly been known for running offenses.
That's right, Connor. That's right.
It's fascinating. Fascinating hire by Ohio State. So that is definitely number one and the most intriguing. Plenty of others. Obviously, Penn State going and stealing Jim Knowles is significant for them, as we've talked about before on the show. Alabama with Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb reuniting. That's a big deal. Clemson goes and snags Tom Allen from Penn State, which starts the domino effect that led to Jim Knowles ending up at Penn State. So all these are on here. And on the list also is Nebraska. Dana Holgorsen, John Butler, and Mike Eckler, all new coordinators to start the 2025 season for Nebraska. Let me, and we've talked about this plenty, obviously, but let me read the analysis on here from The Athletic. Year 3 in Lincoln is a pivotal one for Matt Rule. At Temple and Baylor, his third seasons were breakout years, 21-7 combined in his third seasons at Temple and Baylor. The Cornhuskers have made modest gains in his first 2 seasons, finally snapping an 8-year bowl drought. But even within last season's 7-6 step forward, Rule made the change at OC, dumping Marcus Satterfield midseason and bringing in former Houston and West Virginia coach Dana Holgorsen. In a limited sample size of late season games, there was also a limited number of positive signs for Dylan Raiola in the Huskers offense. I don't know that that's true. Like, it wasn't unlimited. It's not like the offense got a ton better, but I think we would all agree here that we liked what we thought a lot of the hire at the time. And then I think a lot of those thoughts were either confirmed or the thought was, confirmed is a bad word because that means it's over, but helped along, I suppose, right? You continued to feel good about this thing. And then it says this, Holgerson's history suggests year 2 should be better. That side of the ball will draw the most attention, but Butler taking over for White might be just important. Despite deficiencies on offense and special teams, White's defense kept Nebraska competitive. If the offense gets better, but the defense gets worse, will that leave Nebraska stagnant? And then there's one more sentence that I want to get to as well, but let's dive into that question. So we're at the very beginning of the offseason, and you have a halfway decent idea of what the roster is going to look like at this point. You know who the players are. You know who the main characters are. And now we have some evidence at Nebraska this past year of what the offense will look like, but not much, given what Dana Holgerson wasn't able to do in his, 3 games as the offensive coordinator last year. But his history suggests they're going to be okay there. I feel really good about Nebraska's offense going into next year. What does really good mean? I don't know. And that's part of what we're going to try and suss out here. So like I said, we're at the beginning of the offseason, and you're always, for me, when you're trying to figure out a team first, it's where do they land on the weight scale, right? How heavily is it tipped toward one side of the ball? Nebraska for the last 2 years has been heavily tipped toward the defensive side of the ball.
Correct.
Heavily tipped toward the defensive side of the ball. In fact, if they would have had a semblance of offense really at all for the last 2 years, you could argue that things would have gone a lot better, and maybe these changes would not have been necessary, or maybe these changes will, precipitate to, them turning the scales back.
True.
But have we thought much about what the defense is going to be next year, and then what the offense will have to be based on how much the defense takes a step back? And then there's the third question, which we'll get to, of how does special teams play into this equation as well. Let me just say this, I like this equation. I think this math adds up for me. I think Nebraska is going to be a little bit more fast-paced on offense. They're not going to be 2017 UCF. They're not going to be Oregon back in the day. They're not going to be running up and down the field and never ever huddling. But there will be times where they push and pull on the tempo, and the combination of Dana Holgerson and Dylan Raiola is really, really intriguing. And I think it will lead to Nebraska getting a lot more out of Dylan Raiola than what you did last year. Remember the original plan with him, and the plan that he willingly signed up for, Raiola, was for him to be for him to go the hard way, right? Remember we talked about this all last offseason? He could have gone to Georgia and put up crazy stats. He could have gone to, whatever high-flying offense with not only a bunch of talent, but systems that were made and developed for quarterbacks to produce. You think about, 3,500-yard passing seasons and 4,000-yard passing seasons and guys who have won the Heisman and stuff like that. They all come from programs like that, and then they get drafted really high. But Nebraska's tact was, and they obviously are only in the conversation with Raiola because of the history of the Raiolas and the state of Nebraska and the University of Nebraska. So that's one thing. But he knew what he was walking into, which is, hey, it might not look as good on paper when you become a draftable quarterback into the NFL draft in 3 years or 4 years. You might not have gaudy stats. And Dylan Raiola did not have gaudy stats in his freshman season.
He did not. People forget.
He threw for 2,800 yards, which is respectable. And this is over 13 games, 13 touchdowns only, and 11 interceptions. And so you sort of start there, and you're like, okay, maybe the wide receivers get a little bit better, but maybe the offense, just takes a really big step forward this year. And so you're thinking, okay, what does this offense look like if Dylan Raiola throws for 20 touchdowns, for 25 touchdowns in a season? And can he cut the interception number down even further than what it was last year? You hope, because he had a bad stretch in there. And is he going to be a guy who throws for 3,500 yards? Are all the parts of Dylan Raiola going to be, found and taken advantage of? It will look, or they will attempt to make it look, a lot more like the systems at the places where he didn't go to school. I think that's the way to play it. I know we advocated for this, or I don't know if we advocated for it last year, but it was definitely the thing that was different about Nebraska compared to the other places that Dylan was entertaining for, Ohio State, right? Those guys are going to have incredible stats every year. Yes, they have great quarterbacks, but they're going to have really good stats, and they're going to be in the running for the Heisman. And
that's your best player,
right?
Make him the focal point of the offense.
That's, I think, what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is, simply said, what the system, I think, is going to be about this year. And in order to do that, in order to highlight that guy and get all of the things out of him, you obviously need to put good players around him, like good offensive line and a good running game and good wide receivers. And Nebraska has tried to address those concerns this offseason. But I think Nebraska's biggest change will be in how they approach offense. And then you reel in the defensive side of the equation. If Nebraska's taking a step back on defense, first of all, do we expect that? They had a lot of seniors last year. They have a new coordinator this year. He has some help and oversight from guys like Phil Snow, and then obviously Matt Rules. He'll always have a big say in what they do on the defensive side of the ball as well. But Nebraska last year, 23.5 points a game, which is 103rd in the country out of 134 teams, and defensive points per game allowed, 19.5, which was 17th in the country out of 134 teams in college football. So can Nebraska get a touchdown better on offense, and can they not get a touchdown worse on defense? And that's kind of the math equation going into 2025, in my opinion.
It's a little less, well, we're in the Big Ten, it gets cold. You're a little more focused on accentuating your roster than playing against your opponents.
So to answer the question The Athletic posed, if the offense gets better but the defense gets worse, will that leave Nebraska stagnant? I say no, because I feel like the offense is going to get, this is really general, by the way, but I feel like the level to which the offense is going to get better next year outweighs how much the defense will get worse.
Yeah.
And that's not to take credit away from Tony White and what he did over the last 2 years, because I thought that guy was a really good coordinator. And I think he probably will be at Florida State. But I first of all, I believe Rule when he says I think we're always going to be good at defense. And that means, is it top 50? Is it top 40? Is it still top 30, top 25 area? And then can Nebraska, and we're just talking about raw points at this point, and that doesn't tell you everything, but it's a summary. Can Nebraska go from 103rd in the country in points per game last year to top 30, top 25?
Oh,
really? Oh. I'm dead serious. I could see that jump for them next year.
That'd be huge.
So I do not think that will leave them stagnant if you're dealing with the top, even a top 50 offense against the defenses that you're going to be seeing in the Big Ten. The points are always down in the Big Ten. We know that. And that should help out your defensive side of the equation as well. So my answer is no. That will not keep Nebraska stagnant as a program.
Can you try some things in the non-con and really boost your performances? Not pad your stats, but hey, if we need to figure some things out, we've got 3 games to really tinker under the hood with this thing.
You're talking about in the non-con?
Yeah.
You don't really. I mean, you have Cincinnati that right out of the gate. I mean, you kind of like. What are we nagging? What are we nagging?
The goodness of the Bearcats.
What's Nebraska if Cincinnati is nah?
Nebraska's going to have Patrick Mahomes on its side.
I think Nebraska will have their hands full in that game.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a battle. What's wrong with what's up with you in Cincinnati, Josh? You're a hater of Cincinnati?
Mid at best.
Okay, but what's Nebraska?
Great.
All right. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, Josh.
Not doing anything.
Nebraska is great and Cincinnati is nah.
Yeah. What was Cincinnati's record last year?
5-7.
Yeah. Lucky to be 5-7.
Nebraska went 6-6.
7.
They did win a bowl game because they got to one.
People forget.
Yes. At one point in the season, the middle point of the season, Cincinnati was 5-2. Cincinnati last year.
So you're saying the program is collapsing before our very eyes.
Cincinnati last year, Josh, beat a college football playoff team.
Which one?
Arizona State.
Okay. Remember that year Nebraska beat a college football playoff team and you wouldn't shut up about it?
2015.
Yeah, the Michigan State team.
Yeah, they got smoked by Alabama. At least Arizona State,
hung with Texas. Yeah. Okay.
I think Nebraska said, well, I don't know how we got on this conversation, but I think Nebraska, like that's not a game that you could just be like, hey, let's try and work out some problems here.
Yeah.
Like, no, I think you got to know. I mean, that's a big game right out of the gate. Right,
so
out
you're
of the
saying
chute.
Dylan Raiola needs to be prepared for it.
Yeah, I would say that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would say that.
Wonder how he does that.
Are you still on this high school basketball
I
thing?
will not let it go.
Wayne from Winner writes in.
Hi, Wayne from Winner.
The defense will be helped by an improved run game, i.e. time of possession.
Oh, that'd be great. It would be helpful, wouldn't it? I mean, you've clamored for 1,000-yard back for years.
Yeah, I want that. Am I convinced that they're going to get it? No. I'm not convinced that Nebraska's run game is going to be better. Well, I guess I'm finding out a lot of things about how people feel about this going into tonight. We're just starting on this journey of the offseason, all of us together, and I feel like we're all coming from different places at this point. I do not think Nebraska is going to be like hey, the defense is going to get better because they're going to sit on the ball more and be able to run the ball and extend drives and stuff like that. Like, nah, I mean, I think
I don't think that's going to be their goal, really.
No, I'm not any more convinced that the run game is going to be a whole lot better this year at this moment in time. I think they'll put a lot of it on Dylan's shoulders. I think they'll put a lot of it on the wide receiver shoulders. I think they'll be a big play, try to be a big play type of team as well. That doesn't lend itself to defense being helped out by time of possession and things of that nature. So, like,
until they show me,
these are the questions that you have to sort of answer. As you find out who you are. And maybe that does happen in the first 3 games of the non-conference of the season. But you do have to answer those questions. And then the other obvious factor that goes into this that was mentioned in the athletic story was the special teams. It says, really considering how bad Nebraska's been on special teams, Eckler might be the most important hire of them all. So we've sort of touched on this conversation with a variety of our guests over the last several weeks here, or especially since Eckler has come on board. Maybe we'll ask BC coming up next. Like, I am very much on the train that Eckler is as close to as impactful of a hire as Dana Holgorsen is.
Ooh.
We think about those 2 areas of the program. Nebraska's offense and special teams have held it back in the Matt Rule era. Literally held it back in the Matt Rule era. And so competency would stand as an improvement on both. I know,
sad but true.
I not only believe that those two coaches, those two coordinators will make their areas of the football competent, I think they will make them good. I think Nebraska will be a good special teams team next year because they have a good special teams coach with a track record of doing this at this level. And the same, and I'm not being sarcastic, Josh. I didn't say good. And I think that they hired an offensive coordinator who's, one of the better and most respected ones in the country. And I think they've given him generally enough tools to work with. Like I think Nebraska will be good in those areas.
I agree with you. It doesn't matter, but I also find it funny that those two coordinators that held the program back for however many years,
not the coordinators, the positions, the sides of the ball.
The offense and the special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of those coordinators got fired. It doesn't mean anything. I just think it's weird.
What do you mean? Yes, they did. They both got fired.
They're still working there.
Yeah, but they're not in charge of the groups anymore.
I understand.
Yeah, no, I just
think it's a little weird.
I don't. I actually like Ed Foley in the program as a guy who's doing what he's going to be doing now, which is, basically amounts to like in-state. He takes his
Creighton.
Yeah, absolutely. Like community outreach, like that.
He's very good at that. I cannot deny that.
I'm absolutely fine with that. And I have no opinions on Marcus Satterfield as a tight end coach, but I definitely have opinions on him as an offensive coordinator. But people are like, well, he's a bad offensive coordinator, so he must be a terrible human being. No, that's not how it works. You could just be, I don't know, out in front of your skis a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all. And I think that, especially when the Raiola thing got thrown on.
Who among us hasn't looked around and happened? How the hell did I get here?
Yeah. I think that happened. There was another comment. Omaha. Keep dreaming, fellas. Whoa. Other Big Ten schools with some huge hires. First of all, I think Nebraska comparatively, if you rank out based on the people that they hired, I'm talking OC and special teams. If you rank out the individual hires meaning looking at those coaches' resumes and what they've actually accomplished before and what they've turned into, throughout their careers, I there's no reason why those. I mean, Jim Knowles is number one. Jim Knowles is the best coordinator hire in the Big Ten this year, and he's especially because they stole him from another Big Ten school. I don't have any debate about that, but those two, Dana Holgorsen and Mike Eckler, those are top 10 new Big Ten coordinators this year. I really believe that. And so that should pay immediate dividends on the offensive side of the ball and the special teams. Then there's the defense, which is more of a question mark than it's ever been. So then it's just a question of how much do you want to believe in, they'll just be fine because it's their defense. It's Matt Rule's team. We'll see. That's a question that we have to dive more into as we go on throughout this thing. All right. Any thoughts on that? We'll take them. Let's come back with Brian Christopherson. We'll ask him about some of these things. And then, of course, Husker Hoops from last night. By the way, John emails in on the Eckler Bank inbox.
Hi, John.
Connor, remember, Cincinnati has a guy named Satterfield as their head coach. Nebraska has nothing to worry about. They have already beaten the Bearcats. That was probably Josh's point, right?
Yes. Let's go with that.
You definitely knew that.
I definitely knew that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
How could I forget? Back
after this with BC on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, Brian.
Brian Christopherson.
I gotta take this. It's Hap.
B-Rye, B-Rooney, drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
It's got a little chippy last night in Lincoln. There was some fouling, there was some shouting, there was some refereeing, and Brian Christopherson, our next guest, was there to see it all. BC, hello, happy Friday. How are you?
Yeah, that was just me and Robin Washit up in the press area.
That's what all that noise was from the crowd reacting to that?
Yeah, they were pretty into it. I didn't expect all those eyes would be on us, but that's what happened.
It was pretty tense. I mean, it turned into a bit of a grinder there for a little while. Guys kind of duking it out. Maryland complaining about calls. If you want to get the Nebraska crowd into things, just make one bad call, and it's gold from there.
Yes, there was a tough call, and the Maryland dude missed 2 free throws, and it was like an explosion, and the arena was sort of on fire the rest of the way. There was also when Braxton Mia and was it Julian Reese he got tangled up with? I can't remember.
I think so.
On the one where they went to the video board. Whoever it was from Maryland was fortunate the ref was like right there because maybe he would have controlled himself, but he lost his cool for like a split second where he was going to do something that was not going to be great, and a ref stepped in. But it did get kind of intense there.
Just your thoughts on the effort, I guess, from them last night, considering the circumstances with a couple guys who were sick and you had a chance to win it, and like Fred said after the game, it just felt like they kind of made shots, and that was sort of the story. But I don't know that anything is really lost after losing a game like that last night. BC, I guess, what do you think?
Yeah, games like this are always kind of tough because it is. I mean, it's significant when you lose at home in the league, even when you're against a good team, because there's the old plus minus way that Hoiberg and his staff look at it, like that's a -1 when you give up one in your backyard. So you don't just swat that to the side, but it was going to be a tall task. I think people kind of knew, even with the Berkay injury going in, how that could affect things, trying to deal with Reese and Queen especially. And then, when you figured out that Bryce and Connor had been sick all day, and you kind of watched them in warm-ups, and it really showed. Connor looked, like he was in terrible shape, to be honest. And I thought Bryce had a gutty performance to get 20, but he wasn't really driving the ball like he has the last few games. He was kind of, settling more from the outside for most of it. So it was a tall mountain to climb, and yet, you're just wishing if they could have got one of those like 3 stops where 3 times within the last 2 minutes where it's a 2-point game. And if you get a stop there, I think, I don't know, Nebraska was scoring it pretty well on the other end too. So you got to give Maryland some credit, though. They hit some tough shots. There were a few that were open, but there were also some that it's just like, okay, that seemed like it was junk when the guy threw it up and it still went down. So they're playing good ball right now. I don't think they have a ton of depth when they get to the tournament if they get in some foul trouble, but their top 5 is pretty loaded.
Yeah, where would you, I was going to ask, where would you kind of put them right now, just on teams that you've seen? Because they kind of do what they do sort of under the radar compared to some of the top teams in the Big Ten, but they're kind of entering their name right in that conversation right now.
I think they've evolved as well as anybody over the last month, and that could be a captain obvious when you're like, well, yeah, they won 6 of their last 7, but just what you watch on the floor and you think about when Nebraska played there on January 19th, and I wasn't overly impressed with them at the time, and I kind of thought, well, Nebraska is going to get payback when they come to PBA, and in that month, Nebraska got better, but Maryland got a lot better, and that top 5 is, they're special. I mean, they had some slick stuff, where the guys are one-handing passes and stuff like that, where it was just better than other teams I've seen in PBA. So I put them near the top of squads we've seen come into the arena. And that's why, I'm not going to be overly hard on Nebraska about that loss, but, now you got to recover fast, and we're not just talking about the mental part. We got to see if Bryce can get get healthy and Connor, and I don't know what Berke's status is going to be. He might need another game or so, but it's not going to be easy. I know Northwestern is down 2 starters, but if you look at Chris Collins' team, they've played everybody tough, even amid all that. So I don't think it's going to be an easy game Sunday.
Yeah. Do you sort of look at the last 6 in the regular season as not that you need all of them, but they kind of all feel like 1-game seasons, or do you sort of look at it in kind of stretches here with these back-to-back road games and then 2 at home against Michigan and Minnesota? Like, how do you sort of parse through the remainder of the regular season with them?
I think inside their room, they have to look at it with that this is our Super Bowl mentality that was helping them with that 4-game winning streak. But on the outside, I look at like this next 2, it's like they got to get at least one of those. And then, it would be awesome if they could steal whichever one of the 2 between Michigan and Ohio State, and then you got to hold serve against Iowa and Minnesota. Now, I don't think they necessarily need all that, but that's where you're like sitting comfortable, like in your seat, I think, on Selection Sunday if you did that. Like if they win 3 more, I still like their metrics and giving them a good opportunity, especially if they do well at the Big Ten tournament. But for this week ahead, I'd say, get at least one of them. If not, it's going to be, again, that sort of situation. This is what's great about, the chase too in February. It always feels like whenever you do slip and lose 1 game, then there is that kind of desperation feel in the air, not just with Nebraska, but everywhere. And that's what makes it so fun to watch.
BC on the football. And I know you talked about this a little bit this week, but we were just sort of parsing through all the new hires, but specifically the coordinator ones, and Eckler being the newest one. Could I make a case that Eckler is the most impactful still out of the 3 of the coordinators, considering the upside that needs to, the improvement that needs to happen on special teams? Or would you still say Holgorsen out of that group, for the same reason?
If I had to go before a jury and make my case, I'd say Holgorsen, but I think someone could take Eckler and have a chance to make that argument fairly, because if you just think back to, previous Nebraska seasons, I think we all kind of will think of like 2 games that could have shifted maybe in each season if special teams had been more dynamic, just as things were on offense and defense, even though they were kind of stagnant on offense. So if Eckler indeed sort of brings that punch, which he did pretty immediately, basically at Tennessee, then yeah, I think that could sway 2 games. That's what special teams needs to be at Nebraska too. It needs to be not trying to break even, but break open games. And I think he has that mentality. And I will say this: I think of all the coaches that have come in here since I've covered the team, Eckler has like the best recent resume at what he's being asked to do of any coach that's ever come in here. It's not about the fact that he was born in David City or went to Blair High School and has a great vertical leap and all that stuff. That's nice. That's a bonus. But that's a legit, great resume the last 4 years at Tennessee for the very assignment he's being asked to do at Nebraska. Now, some will say, well, okay, the talent's better at Tennessee. I don't think he's going to accept that premise. And I think that's good. So he's going to come in here with high expectations because he's been operating at a certain level, and guys are going to know what they did at Tennessee, and I think understand the bar is going to be that high here too. So it wasn't just like his first year at Tennessee. If you go look at 5 statistics on special teams that are key, they were in the top 20 in 5 of them. And so, I mean, he set that bar right away in the first year there and kept it up for 4 seasons. And so I feel really confident in that statement as far as just recent resume. He's been as good as anybody that's come in for what his assignment is at Nebraska.
It's frankly amazing is the wrong word. It's not like, I don't know. It's not the most impressive thing in the world, but Nebraska went 1 game sub 500 over the last 2 years, and they've had really bottom 30-ish offenses and special teams in both of those years. If you're just looking at raw points per game. They were in the bottom 31 in points per game this past year, and they were in the bottom 10 in 2023 in points per game. Like when you sort of start to pull that stuff apart and you think about the coordinators that they hired to take over those sides of the ball, I don't know, you could start getting kind of optimistic in a hurry.
Yeah, you can. If you believe that the defense can hold steady as like a top 25, even top 30, and you're going to say, okay, the offense is going to go from, where I use CFBstats.com is what I often use to look at my numbers. And to your point, on some of the groups, like offense in some years, it's sad. I always scroll, like you'll pick a stat, and I always like immediately scroll down, like just to the bottom, like not to the very bottom, but you're like in 100 to 133, and you're like, okay, and where's Nebraska? And they're 106, And there's been times when they've been obviously better and stuff like that. But yes, if the defense could be, top 30, top 25, and that Matt Rule, as he says, we're always going to play good defense here. He has confidence in that. And then the offense is, top 45 with that. Yeah, I'd love to see what that cocktail looks like as far as wins and losses. And then if you throw in special teams where you win a game because of it, that can make all the difference. So there is reason for optimism on that point. I think the coordinator hires, I know we're in that part of the year where different outlets are ranking them and stuff. With Nebraska, maybe it's not like that one guy is number one on that list, but I think if you took all of the combination of guys and the reasons why they're in their spots, you'd have to say, well, on paper, Nebraska had as good offseason as anybody in that realm.
There was a lot of teams in the Big Ten who changed one or multiple coordinators. I don't think any's bigger than Penn State going out and grabbing Jim Knowles from Ohio State. Like you'll say, wow, that's huge. But I think you could, if you look at both of those coaches' track records in Holgorsen and Eckler, you're like, that's as good as Nebraska probably could have done, and that's maybe as close to good as anyone could have done. Like those are good hires regardless of the situations that they walk into. And now you have all of this room for upside. I don't know. Like I think you would rank those pretty high in terms of the coordinator hires, of which there were many in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah. And I mean, on offense, some will say, well, what happened against Iowa, Boston College, it was sort of hit or miss, but you saw, like, even in a brief time with Holgorsen, against Wisconsin, and I know Wisconsin was scuffling at that point, but Nebraska, had them spinning at times on some of those drives. And so you're hoping with the full off season, and the runway and some of the new wide receivers that it can look more like that. I remember even after Holgersen's first game as OC against USC, like the numbers didn't just jump off the sheet at you, but you could tell when Raiola and Emmett Johnson walked in the room for the post game, it just felt like it was different. Like, okay, we got something here. We just got to keep building off of this. There's more rhythm and just a confidence in what's going to happen. So, you're hoping that takes off like we think it can. Dana's got a proven track record as a play caller, and so yeah, I'd put his hire up there. Not Jim Knowles, you're right, probably deserves to be number one, but Holgorsen with his background has to rank pretty high if people are still counting him as a new OC hire or coordinator hire.
All right, BC, great stuff as always. Appreciate the conversation and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 247, dove into a couple of those things this week on the old message board on 247 Sports. And, of course, BC's all over Husker basketball as well. All right, we will return. Josh will bring you the odd news on the other side. But first, a reminder to get your bleep together, Josh.
Me? Personally?
Yes, you.
Oh, man, I know I'm a wreck.
Don't miss your chance to win $5,000 with the Get Your Bleep Together giveaway. All on our website. Register online now for a chance to win. 1620thezone.com.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
All right, Josh.
Connor.
It's time for the odd news. But sure, let's take this phone call.
It's Friday.
Yeah, why not? Matt is on the hotline now. Hey, Matt, what's up?
Hey, thanks, Hap, Josh.
What's up?
Call. Hey, just a real quick story, man, we're talking about Eck. So 1999, I'm a sophomore at Omaha. Scott Eckler was just working out, running by the practice field, whatever. We were 0-8 at that time at Scott. He comes down. He's like, hey, can I join the team? Blah, blah, blah. He comes in as a new coach. He helped us out the rest of the year. Ultimately, we had to play like Elkhorn that year, who had Jay Moore and blah, 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 all these guys. He gives this big speech before the game. Acts like, why not us? Why not us? Right? We go up 7-0, and we end up losing 60-7. But here's the thing about this dude, man. Like, so then he's unpaid, mind you. He's just helping out the school. So he's there all workouts, all camps, all summer, going into my junior year. And he became the defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, kind of took over everything. And me personally, I was a third-string quarterback, backup corner. And so he puts me in special teams. He puts me in the left tackle spot on kickoff returns.
Okay.
So, I'm the far left on kickoff returns. So that's come back, form the wedge. And just got murdered all the time. And I'm like, Coach Eck, why me? I'm, 5'10", 160 pounds. He's like, you're the dirtiest player I've seen on this team, and I need you out there just in case something happens. And I'm telling you, and sure enough, he put me on kick block. I ended up blocking a kick and ended up recovering a fumble on kick return. And, boosted my confidence. I ended up being the starting quarterback my senior year and doing all this stuff. But Coach Eckler, man, he was the greatest. And his coaching career literally started 1999, just running down the street, seeing an 0-8 Scott team practicing, trying to get better. And it's quite the story.
That's
so I've been following
fantastic.
the dude ever since.
That's fantastic, Matt. Great story. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Motivator. So I don't care what you are. You're the best player I've ever seen.
I'm the best player he's ever seen. Oh my God.
He said, that's how it sounded when he did the bus podcast with Will.
Oh yeah.
It was just like he went up to Will Compton. He was like, "Hey, best line." He told stories about his recruitment. He's like, "Hey, you're the best linebacker in the country." Called him up. Said, "I'm talking to the best linebacker in the country right now." So good. Sometimes it's just that, man. Sometimes it's just that. You just got to forget about all the other stuff and be like, "I'm the man. I'm the boss."
I imagine it would work.
And this guy has come in and he's got the resume to do it too. So it doesn't sound like crap when you know when a new guy comes in and he's full of himself or whatever, and you look at him and you're like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, come on. No, he'll have some. Yeah, he'll have some juice to him right away for sure. That's a good story. Thanks for the call, Matt. Appreciate it. All right, Josh, let's do the odd news.
Odd news. The parade has begun in Philadelphia.
Oh,
I don't know if you heard this. The Eagles won the Super Bowl.
I thought
Sunday.
that was about Kendrick Lamar, but
no. There was a whole football game around that.
Hey, so did Drake release an album last night or something?
Feels like a terrible business decision, but
I feel like there was some
Drake. No press is bad press, right?
I feel like there was some Drake buzz today for some reason.
Saquon Barkley,
yes,
has gifted each of his O linemen a semi-truck full of beer.
An entire semi-truck?
Yes. Oh, he gave one semi-truck for the O-line to split. No, don't misunderstand what I'm telling you. He gave each offensive lineman a truck full of beer.
Whoa. So our own beef jerky
Yes.
has a semi truck full of beer.
Yes.
For free.
And he said,
and is he sharing?
He said, yes. We said, we're going to be throwing cans up and down. Where were they doing it? Broad Street. And
I'm looking at a picture right now. It looks loaded.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how many beers can you fit in a truck full of beer? Great question. Just over 2,000, which is coincidentally enough, just about the number of yards Saquon Barkley ran for this year.
2,000 beers for each offensive lineman. That's 5 offensive linemen, Josh.
2,160 cans to be exact. 90 cases of Bud Light.
Oh my God. That's awesome. Then when you say 90 cases, it doesn't sound like that much. I prefer that you continue to say 2,100 beers.
Yeah, 2,160 cans of beer per offensive lineman, including former Husker Cam Jurgens.
How much beer do you think Creighton did? How many beers do you think they did on Dollar Beer Night the other night?
Oh,
I wonder if I can get the answer to this somehow.
I heard. Not that there were problems.
And the line was extreme.
It went around the arena.
The entire concourse of the arena.
Yeah.
Yes. That's 2 beers a person, I mean, too, by the way.
It's got to be more than that, right? A little
more than 1 truck full or more than 5 trucks full?
More than 1 truck full.
5 trucks full is, over 10,000 beers.
Flatcat said it couldn't have been that many because the line was slow. He said it was slow.
It was slow.
Doesn't matter what it was.
I couldn't understand that it wasn't in Russian.
Thanks for texting us in English. We appreciate that.
Yeah, because it's really hard to translate it on the YouTube comments. I got to copy and paste it over to the translator.
It's quick.
Soon enough, you guys are going to get annoyed with this for using Google Translate too much, and then the bit will end.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good bit.
Yes. More Eagles news, believe it or not. This one less fun than the Saquon Barkley story, unfortunately. C.J. Gardner-Johnson has found himself in a bit of hot water after the game. He tweeted a photo of Travis Kelce, and it said, what did it say? You should have stayed with Thick or something like that, in reference to Travis's ex-girlfriend who didn't look like Taylor Swift. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, I know nothing about this.
She was a bit of a thicker gal.
Okay, wow.
And the Swifties have found this post.
A bit of a thicker gal.
They have, which is fine, by the way. The Swifties have found this post, and they've also found that C.J. Gardner-Johnson's mother runs a restaurant. In Florida.
Oh, man.
They are review bombing poor C.J. Gardner-Johnson's mother's restaurant with negative reviews because, as you know, Connor, the Swiftie community has never had to take an L in their sports watching career.
Relentless.
And they're now having to deal with it in real time.
Yeah. And they're not handling it well.
They're not. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's mother isn't too terribly fazed by it. She said, there's really no backlash because we're in the process of selling the restaurant anyway. It doesn't affect us. We've been dealing with...
Wouldn't that be the biggest?
I mean...
Okay. Keep going.
I would agree. We've been dealing with this since he was a kid, adding that her son hasn't changed how he plays football or trash talks since he was young. He talks the talk because he can back it up. I talk the talk because I can back it up too.
Yeah, downplaying that. I mean, it's probably your only move, but at the same time, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's maybe talked some smack before, and they maybe heard about it, but he has never angered the Swifties.
Right.
That's a different
kind of heat.
Different deal.
Mm-hmm. And finally,
he also had a new hoodie. Have you seen his hoodie?
Oh no, I have not seen his hoodie.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson's hoodie. Swifties can licks my you-know-what.
Oh, because the
Super Bowl licks.
Oh, I could have used that in the Valentines today. I forgot about that. Switching over to the NBA. Last night was Thursday. That means Inside the NBA on TNT.
Yes, I actually did not. It was amazing how many times it popped up on my thing, and I didn't watch it once. I just saw the text.
I would love to play it for you, but I can't because there's a lot of swear words. And I was making Valentines this morning instead of editing this audio. That probably would have been better use of my time, but that's neither here nor there. Viewers of the Thunder Wolves last night on TNT got a raw moment from Shaquille O'Neal after the race to the big board and back. If you watched Inside the NBA,
get fired anyway, Ernie.
People want to see me race someone to the board, Shaq said before dropping his microphone and running back to the board. Only nobody followed Shaq. No one followed Kenny Smith. I'm sorry. And Shaq, when asked why Shaq didn't, hey, why didn't you participate in the race? It would have been fun. In the words of Marshawn Lynch, I'm tired as S word deleted. America. We're getting fired anyway, Ernie. F it.
Those guys are always good for those lines, aren't they?
Both of those words, I believe, aired unedited because I heard the clip online. I saw a clip and it was not bleeped.
I mean, cuss words are now legal on television.
It's TNT. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
In a related story.
And it happens at like 11 o'clock p.m.
Right. In a related story, Shaquille O'Neal is re-signed with Turner Sports today.
All right. So he did not get fired.
He was, in fact, not getting fired. He was, in fact, actively renegotiating his contract.
He got extended.
I'm going to guess he probably knew it was a done deal anyway.
Probably. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Connor. $15 million per year to keep Shaq at TNT. To do what? I'm not sure.
He just sit there and be big.
It's really
Shaq. He's just big.
I know we got to go. It's really weird that they're like holding on to their talent, even though they don't have anything for them to do. Like Charles Barkley said, yeah, I'm probably not going to ESPN. I'm probably not going to Amazon. Probably going to stay at Turner because that's my home. What are they going to have? Shaq
They'll
and
figure
Chuck do?
something out.
Just a late night show that's not going to go well.
They'll figure something out.
Sure.
All right. We are back after this on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
He has the latest sports news, expert analysis, award-winning commentary, and a pocket full of cabbage.
Can you give us an indication why?
Just in case there's a sauerkraut emergency.
Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
I saw this morning that Texas A&M is also going to debut their Black History Month jerseys. They are also an Adidas school.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where we were quite going with this.
No, this was all just to say that their jerseys are ugly too. So, Nebraska fans, you're not alone. These jerseys suck. They look like they look exactly like the ones that you have that suck. That Nebraska just insists on wearing. Maybe
these look worse.
Honestly, maybe it's awesome that Nebraska lost last night because now they don't have to wear those jerseys anymore. Seriously. I know people keep saying that it's February or whatever. I know people are saying this.
Oh, are they? Okay.
They were saying that it's February. So they lost last night at home, but they were wearing their horrendous uniforms that they couldn't stop winning in before last night. And so I don't know what happens going forward, but it does seem like a really, really nice excuse to not wear them anymore. At least not maybe one more time in the month. Obviously, you got them, and you're supposed to wear them for. I also like how Nebraska wore them for the first time at Oregon, like the Nike school and the school that is known for uniforms, good uniforms that people have liked for a long time. I think they may have jumped the shark on that for the record, but good color scheme and generally they know what they're doing and they're sharp. Man, these jerseys are horrendous.
It's just a T. It's not even the Texas A&M T.
No, I think it is the Texas A&M T. I've seen that logo. I've seen that T used before on baseball hats, I think. Like, I don't think they like to do the ATM anymore. They just do the
Trev is getting away from that.
Well, that's the other thing with this. Trev is Mr. Brand Neutral guy.
Everything's got to be the same.
Everybody's got to have two jerseys, basically, home and away, and there's all these alternates. We can't have them anymore.
Clearly hasn't amassed enough power over there yet.
Yeah, he's got to have more say than Adidas at some point. By the way, did you see the uniforms that Nebraska baseball will be debuting at some point? Maybe this weekend. I'm not sure if they're wearing them, but
no.
Yeah, they have ruled out some slate grays.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I don't. It could go good. It could
Check
go
them
bad.
out. I want your live reaction to them, Josh.
I gotta find them. Where are they at?
Probably at Husker_baseball.
That's where I'm at.
Do a little scroll. Probably a couple days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
That didn't sound great.
It's like a shade too dark.
Correct. That's correct, Josh. Back in my day, Nebraska baseball used to have awesome jerseys.
The best.
Like awesome, seriously awesome jerseys. And I don't know what they've done for the last several years. They've done a lot of different things. I don't even know that Nebraska baseball has like one good uniform anymore.
Wow. The white with the Nebraska script.
The white with the Nebraska. No, because those are cream.
Okay.
I disagree with cream. I'm not on the cream team. Team cream. No, I like Nebraska is, and I know you wouldn't do this because these things have just gone away. But like the old pinstripe vest jerseys with the red sleeves. Now people didn't like the American flag on the front. Like there was a giant American flag on the front of the jersey.
I remember.
Like simple is always better for baseball uniforms. In fact, I think simple is always better for uniforms in general. Obviously, these basketball ones that have been debuted by Adidas this year are taking that in a completely different direction than I would have. Far too simple, one might say. But Every time Nebraska baseball rolls out a new uniform, I'm like, ooh, I don't know.
I don't know about
I like what you were going for. And then the whole Trev thing was the brand, the brand consistency. And so they put the big, fat, bulky N on top of the helmet, or, well, the hat. I mean, I think they kept the skinny N on top of the helmet. The big, fat N on top of the helmet, go back to the skinny N. That's a baseball N. Like, go back to that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe they got 2 years worth of hats or something like that. But yeah, I got uniform problems. It is baseball season, so I got reactions to baseball uniforms.
One Nebraska team that looks great in any uniform, the Nebraska softball team. Their first of 5 games this weekend has gone final.
Really?
They're in La Cruces.
Las Cruces?
Yeah, for the Troy Cox Classic.
Cox Classic?
That's right.
I thought the Cox Classic died.
Well, it has many names, many forms, many cities.
Oh, man. Sitting on the 19th hole at the Cox Classic at Champions Run 2007.
It was a valiant fight by Texas A&M Corpus Christi, but after 5 innings, the game is concluded with a final score of Nebraska softball 20.
Ouch.
Texas A&M Corpus Christi 1.
1? They got one.
They got 1.
Nice job by them.
Mm-hmm.
Corey says, I want a Josh Grunt reaction to the uniforms. You kind of got it. No, I'm going to say, bleh.
I like the idea, just a shade too dark.
Bleh. Bleh. All right. We can jump into baseball a little bit later.
Baseball?
College baseball, which begins today.
Mm-hmm.
It's, actually, do we have anything? I flipped it over to NBA TV because they're starting the All-Star Weekend festivities now. The Castrol Rising Stars practice is on.
Bryce McGowan's is going to be in that batch of players.
The Basketball Hall of Fame news conference starts at 5. Then the Celebrity All-Star Game is at 6 tonight, featuring Team Barry Bonds and 2 Chainz versus Team Jerry Rice and Kobby Lame.
Couldn't be more excited.
Hey, Team Barry Bonds minus 3.5.
Yeah, definitely.
Guaranteed there's somebody in that game who we've never heard of that goes off for like 32 points or something like that. You're like, whoa, that guy can hoop. But no, so I was over on the NBA TV, but is there college baseball on the MLB network right now? Nope.
No, a lot of it's on
Top 100 right now. ESPN Plus. Yeah, Nick was already
dialed in this morning.
So the first game that was on today was what? UConn and Stetson?
Yeah.
Because they're playing in Puerto Rico, I think.
That's right.
So I don't know when a college baseball comes on MLB Network at 7 this evening. There's no information on what that game is. So, folks, we love college baseball. It's great that college baseball starts, and just yesterday, Omaha turned into Russia.
Odd timing for everything, but, everything happens for a reason.
This week also, Josh, the University of Nebraska had an announcement to make that they have reached a deal with Aramark Sports and Entertainment for a multi-year partnership to manage all game day food and beverage services, including concessions and premium spaces at the University of Nebraska's Memorial Stadium, Bob Devaney Sports Center, and other university-operated athletic venues beginning this year. Aramark, the award-winning food and beverage provider. It's funny because I've only ever heard of Aramark having questionable concessions.
Oh no!
Yeah, places like Kansas City. Didn't they do that whole audit several years ago, and they looked at all the anyway. But some of those are old stadiums and whatever. Never mind that Nebraska has a 100-plus-year-old facility that they're going to be starting to make food out of. But part of this deal is that Aramark is going to help Nebraska along in some spaces where they have less experience in. Dannon, Mr. Yogurt, said, as we continually strive to provide the best fan experience possible at all of our venues, Aramark will have a great impact in making our concessions operations more efficient and providing fans with additional offerings. Additionally, Aramark has successfully assisted with the implementation of alcohol sales in several college stadiums in recent years, and their expertise in that area will be critical as we add alcohol sales in all of our venues beginning with the 2025 season. So this has been talked about, I guess. This has been talked about this week. And really, I only bring up this topic to ask this question. I don't understand how people can care about this.
You're going to have your pretzel. You're going to have your popcorn. You're going to have your nachos.
I think people... Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. People were concerned, I guess, that Runza was going to go away or something like that.
Oh, they're going to kick out all the local stuff. Oh my gosh!
And don't get me wrong. Now, I don't know the answer to that question. Don't get me wrong. Like I want to. I think it's good to be able to have those local vendors in the stadium. But is that really what? Like, somebody's going to have to help me out here and tell me why this is a talking point or significant really in any way, shape, or form.
I got 2 texts since we've started talking about that, like, I don't know, 40 seconds ago. Jeff says, not triggered, but don't take our vows away.
I don't think that's happening.
Tommy, Husker games wouldn't be the same without Valentino's pizza.
I don't think that they're doing that.
I mean, they had a food vendor before, whoever it was. I don't know who it was before.
Yeah.
And you still had the local flair.
Correct.
Inside the stadium.
Uh-huh. And they're not going to fire everybody and bring in their own staff. Like, they're not going to...
It's not like other people.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know.
Washington, D.C.?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
They're not going to they're not going to bring in a bunch of people from wherever Aramark is headquartered and like plant them in Lincoln and make them be the concessions workers. No, it's still going to be the exact same people with different T-shirts on, different polos on, during different visors.
Yeah, you know what?
What's the problem here? I don't get it.
We want everyone to hate us, and we want to make less money, so we will get rid of all the things you love.
I don't think they're doing that.
Yeah,
why that wouldn't be smart business to do that, would it?
I don't think so.
No.
If they are, I'm sorry for getting it wrong, but seems like a bad business decision.
Text from the 402. Well, it's actually from Jed. Okay. Aramark ran our cafeteria at my college in 2013. It was ass.
So were the Chiefs on Sunday, and I don't see a lot changing there. Except Travis Kelce. That guy's washed.
Charles says that the food vendor, the previous food vendor, was the parent company of Valentino's. So that's why there's growing concern that Valentino's might not be. Like, what are they going to do? Bar Valentino's from the stadium? Valentino's is still a corporate sponsor of Nebraska athletics.
They're not going to have a sweetheart deal anymore.
Valentino's, handshake meme, Nebraska athletics. Runza, handshake meme, Nebraska athletics. I would be shocked if any of those items are unavailable for purchase for you. And in fact,
you took my South Stadium and you took my pizza.
Like, is the complaint that there's not just Runza and Valentino's and red hot dogs anymore, that you could get like a chicken basket and maybe mildly enjoy the chicken basket? Do you want only there to be Runza, Valentino's, and the red hot dogs? Mike also writes in. Mike is trying to stir the pot, I think.
Hi, Mike.
I mean, they could start serving good pizza at Husker events.
Oh.
That they might serve more pizza than just Valentino's pizza. Options aren't a bad thing. The bottom line is, what does this concern anybody? They're going to have the same options at the concession stands. The people will be wearing different polos, and there might be one or two more diverse options inside the concession stands, and this is a talking point for some reason. I can't understand it. I I do not understand it. Yeah, Rob says the same thing that somebody else said before. Valentino's owns the catering company that Aramark is taking over for. Yeah, like I know, but once again, Valentino's is still a corporate sponsor of Nebraska athletics. Valentino's is literally the official pizza of Nebraska athletics. I know this because I have to say it during every women's basketball game that I do.
That's women's basketball. That's the Lady Huskers.
No. But when you say Valentino's is the official pizza of Nebraska athletics, I'm not saying that they're the official pizza of Nebraska women's basketball sometimes. I'm saying Nebraska athletics. They're not going anywhere. That deal is mutually beneficial to both Nebraska and Valentino's. They are synonymous with each other. Why would they go anywhere? Because the provider is changing.
They're changing everything else about that stadium, Connor.
Yeah. It's a shame they're going to get better Wi-Fi in there now.
No, they're going to tell you it's better Wi-Fi. It's not going to be better.
I hope they actually do get better Wi-Fi in that stadium.
It'd be great.
Or like any Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Before they do that too, they built Pinnacle Bank Arena in 2013? The Wi-Fi in there is horrendous. If there's more than 8 people that show up in the building at once, the Wi-Fi just straight up doesn't work.
Usually is more than 8 people there.
Usually. All right. A lot of people worried about Val's still. Zeb writes in, Val's contract is up next year and Runza's is in 2027. I would assume that those contracts are going to get renewed. Once again, these two things are synonymous with NU 10 Skurs writes in. It was reported this week that Val's contract expired. Runza and Fairbury is coming up later this year. Hope they have vendor tents outside. Guys, I don't know this for sure, but once again, I'm just reading the tea leaves here. I don't think they're going to take it out of the stadium. If they do, then
you can go to the 33 Valentino stores across this great country of ours.
Yeah, or they get tents outside the stadium or something like that. Yeah. I really don't think they're going to take it out. What advantage would that be to Mr. Yogurt if he took the beloved pizza for God knows what reason, but if he took the beloved pizza and the Midwest hand warmer out of the stadium? It would do him no good. He would earn no political capital for that.
This is the downside of Nebraska athletics fans caring so much about everything, having quite honestly nothing else to do in this great state of ours but watch any and all Husker athletics. Is you care about every bit of minutia,
and that's good,
that goes along with it. It's generally a very good thing.
Generally good.
Until they say, hey, Aramark's going to start pumping out the cheese for the nachos. And then you're all like, oh my gosh.
Now, I could be proven wrong on all this. Maybe Mr. Yogurt is like, you know what? Screw those guys. We got to make money off of this thing. We got to find a way to make money off of this. And they just kill that pizza and they bring in their own pizza, or they make their own pizza or something like that. But once again, this is enough of a talking point around here where people care deeply about it. And I think if you show that, they're going to remain in the conversation. Let's take a phone call on this from Mike on the hotline. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Not much, man. I love that when you called the hand warmer.
The Midwest hand warmer, Runza.
Yeah, that's amazing. But, I think, man, Husker fans, they just care about everything. And sometimes we get overly excited about everything. And you wonder why people are always on the edge. New coaching staff, new stadiums going to be built, new concession stands coming in. Come on, it is time for us to move on from some things and move on to some advanced things. It's okay to advance a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mike, well said.
Yeah, it's almost like we put ourselves in a position of having, Husker PTSD on everything. Let some of it go. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the call. That's common sense, ladies and gentlemen.
Text from the 402.
All right.
It's because what happened when the College World Series moved from Rosenblatt to TD Ameritrade, they got rid of all the little guys and just have this corporate junk in its place. The food in that stadium sucks.
They tore down a stadium and made a new stadium and
not an apples to apples comparison.
Ownership, and it was completely different. Like Nebraska's stadium isn't going anywhere. And yeah, I think that was a frustration for some.
Can't park in Jerry's driveway for $10 anymore. Buh.
Yeah, that was kind of, yeah. I like the parking is tough down there. I will admit. Maybe we should have asked that to our College World Series guys. Hey, you got anything on parking? You want to? I did like at the College World Series those right there when you walk in the front gate, that little wall of concessions. They had all the potatoes, like the strings of potatoes. And they just pile up the giant strings of potatoes in the boat. Oh man, those were good. I miss those. Venmo Chris writes in, wow, Odson out on Husker Athletics and their fans.
Whoa.
A real Creighton shill, but it's fine. He's good with me.
That's not what happened.
Brian has a good point. ADs do make poor decisions. Have we ever seen that before? I'm not sure that we have.
Not here. Interesting text from the 402. Now, Connor, the university also used to sell Coke, so things do change.
Coca-Cola.
Oh, Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Yeah.
Yes.
Contracts do change.
Coca-Cola.
Contracts do change. But this is before we had waged a war, Coke versus Pepsi. Unless I'm wrong about this, unless I like when they went away from Coke, did people actually care? If they went away from Pepsi and back to Coke now, the Mountain Dew people would be beside themselves, and there's a lot of them.
There are,
but mostly there would be a celebration in the streets. But I'm curious. I sometimes think that's, having done radio in both towns and talked to many people on many sides, Josh, I feel like that's an Omaha Lincoln thing also.
Oh, really?
I think Omaha likes Coke, and I think Lincoln likes Pepsi.
Weird. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so like if you ask people here, it's like, man, if Nebraska moved to Coke, I would be so fired up for that. I would get my Coke and my Diet Coke and my Coke Zero and my Sprite at all these games. And the people in Lincoln would be like, where's my Mountain Dew? I'll kill you. You can't get rid of my Mountain Dew. That's a generality.
Okay.
From the 402.
Hi, 402.
If Val's leaves Memorial Stadium, I'd never go to a game again. I'm sure you definitely believe that.
Now, next time you say that to someone, you have to add at the beginning how long you've been going to games.
Come on.
Because that's what everyone starts every Husker football sentence with. I've been going to games since blah, blah, blah. If Val's leaves a Memorial, I'll never go to a game again.
Get your Mad Libs straight. Mm-hmm. One more call before we call Sipple. Here is Curtis on the hotline. Hi, Curtis.
Hey, what's up, Happer?
What's going on?
I just wanted to say that pretty stoked for Husker baseball. Made it through the long, cold winter. Basketball season is over. Baseball season's here.
Wrong, Curtis. Wrong, Curtis.
I
love baseball, but basketball season is not over, Curtis.
I just wanted to ask who you got your eyes on this weekend and kind of what you're looking for. I'm pretty pumped about these two new guys. Got the Summit League Player of the Year and stole Creighton's longtime catcher. So just want to see what you're looking for.
Okay, Curtis. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Starting pitching is always a thing. Mason McConaughey is going to go today for the Big Red. And then you're going to, you got 4 games this weekend. So Will Walsh is going to get a start. Ty Horn's going to get a start. And one more guy. Jackson Brockett's going to get a start leading up into Monday. Like that. I mean, when we talk about this baseball thing a little bit later, we'll sort of get into this. But like, it's so, for basketball and football before the year, you could be like, hey, what are the expectations this year? We know a lot about the roster. For baseball, like, I think we know a lot about the roster, but so much of it is up in the air considering, how you perform in the first couple weekends of the season and the quality of teams that you're playing against and all those things. And as we've seen for both of our local, for Nebraska and Creighton over the last several years, things kind of ebb and flow a little bit. Sometimes you're really good in the midweek and you can't win a game on the weekend. Sometimes you're really good on the weekend and you can't win a game in the midweek. Sometimes we see that inversed in Nebraska and Creighton in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that way. I do think Hogan Haligso is a nice addition there for Nebraska.
Say it one more time.
Hogan Haligso.
Great name.
Yep. Former J. Tough. John emails in.
Hi, John.
Curtis is wrong. Basketball season doesn't even exist. So as soon as football is over, it's baseball season.
Chris on the
We'll talk about our expectations for baseball in a little bit.
Chris on the Equitable Bank inbox. No one actually prefers Pepsi. You may be willing to live with it just so you can have Mountain Dew, but only monsters would actually prefer Pepsi.
I don't know, man. I'm telling you, if you did like a poll question that everyone voted on in Lincoln, I think it'd be a lot closer than you'd think.
How do you geofence a poll question on Twitter?
For Lincoln only. Only vote on this if you are in Lincoln.
Everyone be cool.
One more for the 402.
Hi, 402.
Actually, probably a couple more. Connor, when you can't count on the Huskers for a good performance, you can always count on Valentino's hamburger pizza. That is true.
Yeah, there is something to that.
Although I saw a picture that came out a couple days ago of somebody comparing what the Valentino's pizza looked like at Memorial Stadium compared to what it looked like at Pinnacle Bank Arena, which, for the record, is operated by different concessions providers. It was like smaller. There was like a slice of it that was cut off on the slice of pizza at PBA, which is very intriguing. Now, I will say that you're at the mercy of what, like, not all slices of Valentino's pizza are created equal. Some are just enormous and some are slivers.
This is true. I believe there was a breakdown on Gary and Matt earlier.
Oh, really? I missed that. Okay. That's some of what you deal with. Tommy, who lives in Omaha.
Hi, Tommy.
Says Pepsi greater than Coke. So that takes down that theory immediately. All right, we'll be back. We'll call Sipple. We'll see what happens next on 1620 The Zone. right, we're always prepared on Fridays.
Got prep a little extra on Fridays.
Prep for one more segment than you think. Do you think if we stopped promoting that Sipple's coming on the show that he would? I mean, we hit a good stretch there for a while, and now we're
football's over, and it's a little
the schedule's a little hectic. Hey, I'm at kind of every. I know the Husker Online boys were in Nash Vegas this week, getting after it for On 3.
Hello.
At their summit or whatever. So maybe he's back or maybe he's not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're up to. But we did not successfully find Sipple on the other side of that phone call.
Does he have a couple haunts that we could call?
Yeah, he calls Shoemakers.
Yeah.
If you called Shoemakers on West O Street.
Hey, is Sipple there?
That would actually be really funny. But I don't know. What if they answered the phone? Shoemakers on West O Street. They're like, "Hey, is Sipple there?" And they were like, "Steve, are you here, Sipple?" No, it doesn't look like he's here. Check the scooters on 27th and whatever.
He just left. Said he had to get a coffee. I don't know.
I believe one time Sipple told me that he does all of his Christmas shopping at Shoemakers, which is a truck stop.
Incredible.
For the record. That guy is an enigma. I've received a text. It says 12:45. Does that work? Of course it does. Of course.
You want us to call Shoemakers? Or you
right.
directly?
So this will give us a couple minutes to talk about baseball.
Baseball.
First of all, concessions questions first.
Okay.
Who was the crazy person who said? Who's the crazy? Oh yeah, Sith Destroyer says I have an opinion. Coke and Pepsi taste the same. That's just objectively untrue. You can prefer Pepsi. I will probably think less of you, but like you could prefer it. That's fine. But
you can even I don't care. It's all the same to me. Whatever. It's fine.
There's no chance that they taste the same. Yeah. They don't taste the same. They don't taste the same. And then we got this from Bernwa.
Bernwa.
Which are you most attached to? Val's Pizza, Runza, Fairbury Hot Dog. He says I'm a Red Dog man. Which am I most now? Am I putting myself at a Husker football game or at a Nebraska sporting event?
I believe so.
Which am I most attached to? My level of attachment is significantly less than some I've learned today. But the thing that I prefer to get if I'm getting a concession item at a Nebraska sporting event is a Valentino's pizza. Even though I know the quality of pizza that it is and all of the things, like I get it. I just I don't know. I find it
affects you.
I find it to go together quite well. No, it doesn't affect me because there's not going anywhere. That's the point, Josh.
But what if it did?
Then it would mildly affect me. And then unfortunately I would probably have to get a cheeseburger or a chicken basket or something like that. Runza, I like. It's more accessible to me outside of the stadium, and I do get Runzas like from Runza a lot, and that is something that is easily accessible, like I said. So like I don't necessarily associate the two. And the Red Dog, the Red Dog is just a tough hang for me.
Oh.
I know people love it. I don't care for it, really. It's the red. It doesn't taste different than any other hot dog.
Okay.
I just don't. It's weird to me that it's red, and I don't understand why people.
Does it mess with you?
It maybe messes with me a little bit.
Okay.
Why does it need to be red?
That's okay. Well, Nebraska.
Yeah, and I just don't really. I don't love hot dogs. I don't ever want a hot dog. If it comes out of the Der Wiener Schlinger, great. But I've never caught anything from the Der Wiener Schlinger before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, kind of sad. I've only seen them being flung up into the air. So give me Val's out of those three. Josh, any takes?
It was the Red Dog, the pizza, and the Runza.
Mm-hmm.
I guess at a game, I would probably be more likely to grab a pizza.
There you go. Here's your answer. Happy college baseball opening day to those who celebrate. The first of our local teams that is underway, first to the polls, is the Creighton Blue Jays this year, who are not playing against whatever the hell they were doing last year.
They were in Baltimore?
They were in Baltimore playing. I just saw it last night because I was looking at the schedules. And they won. Remember, they won 24-0 in the first game.
That's right.
And they won I think they won a game close, and then they won another one by a long shot, and then they were up 100-0 in another game, but they stopped it 1 hour or 1 out short of being official or something like that. So
bang.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't remember the name of that team. Anyway, Creighton is first today. They are at UNC Greensboro. Game starts in less than 20 minutes.
Hello.
They'll do a doubleheader at UNC Greensboro. Eli Nissen will get the ball first for Creighton. Creighton has a lot of arms that were bullpen arms last year, got some weekend starts, got some weekday starts, and then will be expected to move into the rotation this year, especially as the health of Dominic Cancelleri continues. He's their Friday starter who went out after, I believe, at the end of March last year. And has returned for his extra year. He's their frontline guy, but I think it'll be a process for him as they get him reacclimated and things like that. So Eli Nissen gets the ball first from Minot, North Dakota. And they'll play at UNC Greensboro for 3 this weekend, 2 today, or maybe 4 this weekend, 2 today. Nebraska starts at 2. Mason McConaughey will step into the Friday role. I will remind people that last year, at this time, we really had no idea who Brett Sears was. And then Brett Sears became an All-American pitcher. Might that happen this year? I'd say unlikely. But the strong point of every college, every good college team is that they have a Friday night guy that could toe up against the other Friday night guy on the other side. So Nebraska will have their hands full this weekend with a bunch of good teams. UC Irvine, Vanderbilt, obviously, tomorrow, Grand Canyon on Monday, and I'm missing one in there. Is there another UC Irvine game in there? Oregon State, is that this weekend? No, because they have them.
They play 3.
No, they play 4.
San Diego State.
San Diego State. Thank you. Yep. So it'll be 4 this weekend for Nebraska baseball. Starters Mason McConaughey, Ty Hord, Will Walsh, and Jackson Brockett. And the Mavs are in New Orleans. Everybody's coming back from New Orleans, and the Mavs are like, I want to go right into it. Braden Curtis will get the start for the Mavs today. It's 6:30 against Tulane. I believe they're the defending AAC champions. Remember when Tulane baseball was a wagon?
Yeah.
Went to a couple College World Series. Nebraska played them in one of them. And the Mavs will start their season. I assume it's a great pleasure and joy for Tulane to say that they're starting their season against Omaha, because they can say it starts with Omaha and it ends with Omaha.
I'm looking that
That's what I'd be tweeting if I was their admin. That's for sure. Jeff writes in, is Creighton's baseball team also sick? Not that I know of.
Is Nebraska's baseball team also sick?
Not that I know of, but we'll find out after these games. So I was going to talk about expectations for each. We'll get back to you on that through the weekend. We'll see what happens this weekend, because that's how college baseball works. It's a bit of a clean slate. Although Creighton has a strong part of their lineup back, and Nebraska has a lot of their pieces back from last year as well. So that is your baseball weekend preview, Josh.
I think we need to fire the Tulane baseball social media director.
Oh, they didn't do it?
No,
It starts and ends with Omaha?
They're really excited about their Mardi Gras jerseys. I got to admit, they're pretty cool jerseys.
They have great jerseys down there, don't they?
Yeah.
But they didn't make any reference to starting and ending with Omaha?
It did not.
Sad. Disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunity missed. All right, coming up next, we'll talk to Steve Sipple from HuskerOnline.com on 1620 The Zone.
Steve Sipple,
Hey! The conversation gets even more uncomfortable, okay?
Omaha. Steve Sipple on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
That's right. We're joined now on the hotline by Steve Sipple of HuskerOnline.com. Hi, Sip. How are you?
I'd say good. How are you guys doing?
I'd say good as well.
Good. Let's talk. I mean, this is sports talk.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be sports.
But it has to be talk.
Yeah, it does have to be talk. I don't know. We could make grunts or something like that. We do that sometimes.
Sing. I mean, we could sing if it came down to it.
That is a whole new type of radio station in a market that has not been tapped into yet. Sports sing radio.
Yeah, we have to sing our take. That'd be really interesting. You'd have to think about it, and get in tune.
Yeah.
Proper wordage, which you still have to do. But if you're going to put it to like notes, it'd be really challenging.
Yeah, would you be graded more on the takes or more on the level of singing?
Well, but it's not an either or question.
You got to have both.
Yeah, it's both.
How was Nashville?
It was work. I mean, you know me well enough to know I never even made it to Broadway.
I'm sure your cohorts did.
Oh, they made it. Yeah, they made it to Broadway, Tootsie's, or wherever the hell you go.
Tootsie's.
I kind of wanted to, but I still did my morning show, so that meant 5 o'clock wake up call, all that.
Oh.
So I want to be home. I want to be in the hotel by 8:30 or so. So no, I didn't do a lot. It was work. It was interesting though. It was interesting work.
You learned a lot about On3 and the things that are coming up.
Yeah, I learned a lot about the the corporation from corporate level and expectations. And it's just good to be, the beauty of it is you're just around a lot of sports writers. There's a lot of sportsters, people who have similar interests. They do similar things to you. And some of the guys like you would recognize, like Tom Dienhart, who's been around, who worked for the Sporting News for years and years. And there's a name a lot of people are familiar throughout the country with Tom Dienhart. And I just happen to be good friends with him, and he's a fascinating guy. So that was fun.
So you went to Nashville and hung out with Tom Dienhart for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Nice.
And like I say, Tom's really interesting, and does a great job now on the Purdue beat, and Tom Dienhart. Just think about. We were talking about Missouri basketball under Norm Stewart, which he was in that market. He goes back to throws out names that are beautiful to remember: Anthony Peeler and Steve Stavanovich and John Sunvold.
Nice.
That's better times, Happer. Better times.
Definitely different times. Yeah.
Definitely better times.
I would probably say better times too. Yeah, you're right. Hey, I was actually talking about this week. I have many old man segments every week, but my old man segment this week was the level to which I dislike the gigantic Big Ten conference and the fact that it does not breed any hatred toward the people in the conference because of the lack of familiarity that you have with them, considering, you get 9 football games or whatever, and there's an 18-team conference. I hated that. I had like a 20-minute rant about that this week, so I'm with you.
Interesting. And that alone is something I haven't thought deeply about, but you're right. In the Big 8 days,
you knew who you were getting every year.
Yeah, and it would foster those sorts of, Colorado quickly became a heated rival because you saw them every year. And even Kansas State evolved into that where it was bloodlust. You're right. There's not enough of that. Certainly Iowa's gotten that way.
Iowa's that way, and why is that? They're the only team that Nebraska's played every single year.
Yep, and it's real. I always am amazed when people push back on that. If you push back on it, you weren't in the stadium this past year.
when they played, and those "Let's Go Hawk" chants were. It was bloodlust in the air. It was amazing, and I'm not saying it's bad. I loved it. It's bad if you're on the Nebraska side. It hurts, but man, those fans wanted that bad.
Well, the whole reason I did this segment, Sipple, was because it was coming off of Monday when I got done watching 2 hours of Nebraska, Iowa, and women's basketball in Lincoln, and you could just tell they did not like each other, and there was a lot of Iowa fans there, and a "Let's Go Hawks" burst out, and there was this audible groan, an attempt to drown it out by Nebraska fans, like the programs don't like each other, the fans don't like each other, and that only happens when they're on the schedule twice every year in basketball.
Oh, I totally agree with you, Happer. Good take.
Beautiful. Thank you. I saw you had some more takes this week on some of the things that Scott Frost had to say. I don't know that this needs to be like a topic that we really, but I'm interested to get your thoughts on how Frost saw his time alongside Trev Alberts here, assuming that's who he was referencing when he said what he said the other day, which it definitely was, but and like how revisionist history it might be from both his side and those who look back on the situation now.
Well, first of all, if I were talking to Frost, and I would say it if he was sitting here in the office with me, I would tell him, now you've been away from microphones for a couple of years. Now you're back. You're going to be back in front of them regularly. Don't go in this direction. Just don't. You don't. It does you no good. In fact, it was a lot of people felt this way. That it was sort of an example of Frost not taking enough ownership.
Definitely.
I'm not saying he has to take all of the ownership, for his failings, but he should take most of it. And instead, he was sort of deflecting it on, I had an AD in Trev Alberts that didn't support me. It's so refreshing now to have an AD that does. What he's doing is taking all the nuance out of the conversation, number one. The nuance meaning Trev Alberts took the job in July of 2021. He took the job in July of 2021 when Frost was 12-20. 12-20. Any AD who takes that job is not just going to say, "Oh, hey, buddy, you got a clean slate." I mean,
you're on alert right away.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. We're both big dudes. We're both big former Huskers. We're going to walk arm in arm, and you got a clean slate. Don't worry about anything. You can't do that. They were in trouble. They're 12-20. It wasn't going good. And Trev, I thought, did a good job. And it's not like all this is conjecture. I talked to Frost the day he met with Alberts for the first time. It got off on a rocky start, and of course it did.
Yeah.
And then Trev cut his salary. It's rocky when you go 12-20. It's going to be rocky with anybody. It doesn't matter who it is, unless it's a bad AD. And so, yeah, just don't go there. I mean, it just doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything.
Trev also, this is something we talked about at the time when Trev was hired. Like his knowledge, his really intricate knowledge of the bones of the program and the people inside of it and all of those things and the entire athletic department, would that play to his advantage? He had not only the fact that Frost was 12-20 in Nebraska at the time in his back pocket, but also preconceived notions about him. That definitely didn't help Frost. So I understand what he's saying, and it doesn't surprise me to see that he saw it that way. But you're right. I mean, there still wasn't any like responsibility for that. He still hasn't even mentioned Nebraska, by name since he's been the coach at UCF, which doesn't really bother me a whole lot, but it's interesting.
I guess what it comes down to is I think fans here, Nebraska fans, would like to see Frost take more ownership. Not really that simple. In some ways, nothing simple. When we have these discussions, it seems like, but that part of the discussion is pretty. I just think Nebraska fans would like to see Frost not blaming other people.
Right.
In this case, blaming Trev. Just take ownership. And again, this is nothing I wouldn't say to Scott if word gets back to him. I just tell him, look, you didn't do a good job at your job. You just didn't. And it's that I don't think anybody would. I don't think he could take issue with that. I think he was 16 and what was his final record?
16-31, I think.
Yeah, and in that, and I would. And now there was Happer. You might be doing the same thing under your breath, saying Sipple. You weren't overly critical of him when he was here. Yeah, actually, that's a little. People conveniently forget some of the stuff I've written, and I was a little hard on him even at the end of the 2021 season. And then in 2022, I thought, let's just see if he can pull this plane out. I said it all the time. Can he pull this plane out of a tailspin? Well, then it went down in flames so fast. He didn't really have an opportunity as a media member to hammer away at him too much because it just became incredibly evident, really in Dublin, that this wasn't going to work.
I think what he said, what Frost said the other day, reinforces the idea that basically that what you just said, that relationship was probably never going to work. And frankly, he probably should have been fired after 2021. You know, like that's super revisionist history now, and it's all gone now. And who knows how things would have gone? But like I thought of that immediately when I heard Frost say that.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think Trev. I think Trev had little confidence when he took the job in Frost. So, I mean, little confidence in Frost as soon as he took the job. But I also think that he had to be fair in assessing the situation and had to be fair to a certain degree, at least in giving Frost a chance to pull that plane out of the tailspin. But again, it became so evident against Kansas State, then against North Dakota, and then really, come on, after Georgia Southern, there was not even a decision really at that point.
Right. Sipple, I really enjoyed your column with Zac Taylor this week. I didn't want it to get lost. I know it was a few days ago now, but I wanted to ask you about your conversation sort of with him, and I know it was his first time like back in a while, and so sort of what did you get from him on his thoughts on the program and the things that he's seen as he now stands as the coach of the Bengals, an important guy in football?
Well, Happer, I know your personality. You really like Zac. He's very, very unpretentious. And when he came back, it was just kind of typical Zac. Kept a really, I mean, on one hand, you would say, oh, he really kept a low profile. He sat courtside at the Nebraska game. He did, but you notice they didn't introduce him.
Yep.
Like my guess, and I wish I would have asked him this. God, I wish I would have asked him this. Is my guess is he might have told him, but we don't need to do that whole thing.
Right.
Zac really loves this place. He grew up because his dad played for Oklahoma and Barry Switzer. He grew up an Oklahoma fan, and he loved that. He loved that he could be a fan of Oklahoma. But now that he played for Nebraska, he's a Husker. He wants his kids, his boys, to be, and I think he's got a daughter too, but he wants those boys, the 12-year-old and the 14-year-old, to be Huskers, and they are. They watch every basketball game. They watch the football games, and Zac loves that. He loves that he and those boys sit down and watch all the Husker basketball games. And believe me, I talked to Zac off the air. And when I say they watch it, they know what's man, do they know what's going on with that team. They watch it close. Zac watches it from a coach's perspective, which is really interesting when you talk to him. So, and then the other thing he said that was interesting, and I don't think like a coach after all these years, maybe I should a little bit more, but he thought it was very valuable that Dylan is the way Dylan is, and that he's very approachable. He is very approachable. He's just sort of a nice guy, and he's out. He talks to people. He makes you feel, as a fan, he makes you feel very comfortable around him. He loves that part of it. And Zac said that's valuable. I mean, that's a valuable thing for a guy in that position, in that leadership position. And I never really thought of it that way. I did, but Zac, Zac was that way too, not nearly as public as Dylan, but Zac was a very congenial guy.
Yeah.
Always had.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I would encourage people to read that on HuskerOnline.com. All right, Sipple. Thanks as always for the time. We'll let you go. Enjoy your weekend.
I always enjoy it, Connor. Take care.
Steve Sipple, HuskerOnline.com. Didn't make it to Broadway.
I never made it to Broadway.
It sounded like he was a young, up-and-coming actor. And he was lamenting the fact that he was never good enough to hit the big time.
I could have been a contender.
Back after this on 1620 The Zone.
let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Here comes the clown.
Quick update from the Eagles parade in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah. How's the beer doing? Have they got enough beer?
The beer is not where it's supposed to be. And by that, I mean...
yeah, what do you mean by that?
Howie Roseman, the GM of Philadelphia Eagles, has been reportedly hit in the head with a beer can, and I am looking at a picture of him with a gigantic wound on his forehead. He seems to be fine, probably because he's hammered, and he's wearing sunglasses, probably because he's hammered, but he does have a giant cut on his forehead. He must have been hit with a full can of beer.
Okay.
This is from, if you're looking for it, it is from NFL, quote unquote, reporter, our favorite.
Oh!
Dove Kleiman. Yes. Look at that.
I have at Eagles Berna with a photo of it.
It's going around.
Oh, my goodness.
And he does not care at all that he got smoked in the head with the beer can.
Square in the forehead.
Right there.
Not so much here or here, but right here.
Here. A great Valentine's Day card from Mike. If it's not Giancarlo's fault that I love you.
Damn it, that's better writing than I did.
It's better than the whatever Bobby Wood Jr. one did. You did the Severance one. That was good. Josh, let me get some sound here so I can just give him what he wants in the drop section. I got the drop, but just give me the volume. What do you mean? Turn the music bed on. Oh, sorry. I couldn't see that it was going. I got it. Okay. All right. Yeah, this is definitely well timed.
It's not Giancarlo's fault.
You got it. You got it. You got it. Sorry, my computer covers half the screen. Too many screens.
I'm not allowed to talk about that.
Is there any other drops that we can make
We got some drops.
Valentine's Day card that we can make out of our drops.
I can't believe how much I love you.
I can't believe it.
Might be one of our best. Might be my favorite.
Our love is not an disaster.
Oh no! Disaster! What a bad idea! Oh my goodness!
What else we got on that board?
Pain everywhere. Give me with the pain everywhere.
Our love is just
why does it always start with our love?
I don't know. Valentine's Day
your love makes me hurt so much that there's
just pain. It was pain everywhere.
What else?
Everywhere. I love you so much. I want to
kill myself, jump in the cold and die of frostbite.
If I grunted our love, it would be.
All right, there you go. We got him.
We got a few.
A couple on there. The first of the local baseball games are underway. The Jays at UNC Greensboro.
Sorry, Mike has another one.
Oh.
I have an opinion. I love you.
That would have been good.
Hey, Mike, you want to write some of these?
That would have been a good one for you, Josh. Are you going to put together like a collage of all of them? Maybe like tweet it out later or something like that?
I'm going to tweet some of the good ones out, including the Gary one.
The Gary one needs to be out there more.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely.
After the show, while you and the boys are doing, what are you doing in the crossover today? Is it milk?
I believe it's milk day, but
SNL draft?
That is, of course, contingent upon people remembering.
Now, John just came in here and put something in the fridge. Was it milk?
Oh. Did he? I do see a big jug in there.
Okay.
So yeah, it must have been.
That's a Valentine's card. I did see big jugs out there.
I didn't listen to the crossover, but I did see a big jug in there. Anyway, speaking of this guy.
I want to kill myself, jump in the cold and die of frostbite.
Can you believe that Creighton is actually playing for first place in the Big East?
They lost to Georgetown, Connor.
They lost to Georgetown. And it wasn't just that they lost to Georgetown. They lost to Georgetown by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Georgetown by a lot. And they lost their first game in a very, very long time this past week. People forget, against UConn. But they needed some good fortune. They asked for good fortune with Kyle Neptune of all people.
Hey, could you do us a favor?
Could you help us out a little bit? And the answer was yes. And so here we are. Couple ranked teams on Sunday getting together at the Garden. I mean, it is going to be. I mean, I don't know. Do the kids say lit anymore? It's going to be absolutely.
Saquon Barkley, Cam Jurgens said the offensive line bus today was going to be the most lit. So.
I bet it will be because they have 10,000 beers at their disposal.
White guys from Nebraska are still saying lit.
Well,
so
Creighton's got some white guys from Nebraska. Well, white guys from Nebraska. They got guys from Nebraska and white guys.
Mm-hmm.
So
Stephen Ashworth whiter than the white guys from Nebraska.
Yeah, I don't think that Creighton has any white guys from Nebraska though. They have guys from Nebraska, but not white guys from Nebraska.
Interesting.
Fascinating. Isn't it?
Never thought of that before.
But can Creighton find enough in the tank to withstand the defensive avalanche that the Johnnies are going to throw at them on Sunday? I find that team very intriguing because they will be St. John's is going to be, I think, the Big East torchbearer. It looks like they're going to win the league at this point. Obviously, Creighton will have a lot to say about that on Sunday. But you like what they have coming up down the stretch. Although they do still have to play UConn and Marquette still. So it's not easy for St. John's from here on out. But they have kind of been that team all year. Would they rip off like 12 in a row?
Isaac Trout, a white guy from Nebraska.
Yeah, phone can stop ringing now. I apologize. White guy from Nebraska. I was only thinking of Jason Green. Not white. And so they ripped off 10 games in a row. And they've kind of just grown into the team in the Big East. It was kind of a war of attrition. Like UConn had some moments where they fell off and played in some competitive games and whatever. And Marquette, same thing with them. And Creighton's kind of been trying to put their stamp on this thing this entire time. But I think St. John's is the torchbearer for the Big East Conference. About time you got there.
I'm slow. Okay.
I think they got their
There's
question answered. They got their question answered. So St. John's, I feel like, is that team, but I'm just not convinced on them. And probably that tells you a lot about the league. They are so good defensively. And they have, I think, a good formula offensively, although it's not consistent enough, right? Like they have RJ Lewis, and that guy is really good, and Kadari Richmond can get a bucket, and Wilcher can knock down. Well, he hasn't really had a great rate this year, but they don't take a lot of threes, and they don't make a lot of threes, but they don't need to because they will clamp you on defense. Second best adjusted efficiency defense in the country. But like I look at them and they're 21-4, and they have the second best adjusted defense in the country. But I'm just like, and so I feel like they'll be, when the top 16 comes out this weekend, they'll probably be in there. It'll be close. They'll probably be in there, and they'll be identified as a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament by the time we get there. But they're one of those teams where they're so unbalanced where you're just a little bit worried, like, okay, this could either go really well or really poorly, depending on the matchups. If you get a team that wants to fight you that way and has a little bit more offensive firepower, they're going to lose. If you get a team that is, probably chucking up 3-pointers and is an offensive team, that might be a tough that might be a easier matchup for St. John's because they could shut off the hose on offense. I don't know. They're fascinating to me, and I still don't. I've been pondering the question all week of who the best team in the Big East is, and I can't come up with an answer.
More likely outcome for St. John's in the tournament: Elite Eight or one and done.
So let's just say they're a 4.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're a bracket matrix 5 right now.
Okay.
They're
a little like those Virginia teams.
They are the last bracket matrix 4.
Okay.
No, they're not. They're not Virginia in the same. They're not in the same way.
Their offense isn't that bad.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. Like if you look at the balance of them, but Okay, I see what you're saying. They're a bracket matrix 4 at this moment. So, I mean, their ceiling is probably a 3. If they could get there, they'll probably land somewhere in between a 3 and a 5. If you're a 4, you get a 13 in the first round. 5-12s are always tough. Like they could lose in the first round. But I think anybody in the Big East, like that should tell you about the Big East this year. I just there's only going to be 4 teams that make the NCAA tournament, I think, although Villanova's trying to crawl their way back into this thing a little bit. And Xavier hasn't quite, improved maybe as much as we thought they were going to after the really, really tough stretch. Just it might have broken them, right? And then probably they're not going to have the metrics to get there at this point. So it's just going to be those 4. And I don't know, it's all matchup dependent when you get to the NCAA tournament, but I don't know who I would identify as the team that has the capability of going the furthest. I said this before the UConn Creighton game, but I think you could make a real argument for UConn.
They've got the pedigree.
Well, yes, but that's a small part of it for me. Okay. I just think they haven't been there consistently on defense this year. It's only the 97th efficiency defense in the country right now, but they clearly it's a want to thing, right? So if they turn that switch on, it's a lot like Nebraska with the way that they play. Sometimes they turn that switch on, they can really hound you, and they really hounded Stephen Ashworth the other night. I mean, they put some tough matchups on him, and they really, really made him fight and work for it. And then offensively, they're pretty dynamic. They could shoot the 3. They can get the ball inside. They're the 12th rated offensive efficiency team in the country, and they have a scorer, man, like Liam McNeely.
Yeah.
It completely changes them.
Kind of thought that's what they were missing
expect
all year is the dude, and maybe they're finding the dude.
Yeah. So I you could make an argument for them, and Marquette has it pretty easy down the stretch. Stands for one game at I guess they finished with UConn and St. John's. I could see Creighton. I could really see Creighton winning the Big East if they win tomorrow. Or they win Sunday rather. The picture becomes pretty clear because you look at some of these other teams, and Creighton would be technically in the lead if they win on Sunday because they would have the same record as St. John's, but they would have beaten them twice. And Creighton's remaining games would be 3 home games against Georgetown, DePaul, and Butler.
Yeah.
And then 2 roadies, tough one at Xavier and at Seton Hall.
Kind of weird that the conference.
But then you look at St. John's, and they have UConn and Marquette still coming up on the schedule. Marquette has St. John's and UConn. UConn has Marquette and St. John's, right? So Creighton had this really tough 5-game stretch that they got through. Potentially they might get out of this thing at 3-2, but at the very that's at the very worst. And it's not smooth sailing from here because their margin for error is still thin, but they certainly have the easiest schedule amongst the contenders left, considering they don't play any of them anymore.
Yeah, the conference.
You can really see them winning if they win on Sunday.
They didn't, they presumably when they're making the schedule, they're trying to backload it a little bit with, hey, that final weekend, let's put a big matchup. Let's give all the contenders a fellow contender, and maybe one of them will be for everything, right? And they just kind of didn't factor Creighton into that equation at all, it looks like.
It's interesting because they were picked 2nd or 3rd in the league.
I don't know that that's what happened, but I mean, it sure seems that way.
But I'll say this, Creighton's schedule was I think it's ended up being pretty advantageous for them because they did one swipe through and then did the next swipe through.
Yep.
I don't think anybody else will really have that. I just talked about Xavier. Xavier had all of them just packed in Like you're going to play St. John's and UConn and Marquette each twice before February even starts. Like, whoa, take it easy, man. Why? But that's how it kind of worked out for him. By the way, I'm just now looking at the text line after I forgot that Isaac Trout was a white guy from Nebraska. I apologize. I apologize.
We don't see color.
Exactly, Josh. Many people are saying this. Black Cat writes in on YouTube.
Hi, Black Cat.
Kempom has Jays winning 75-74 at Xavier. Feel like that's still being drastically overlooked. Winning at Xavier is a really hard thing to do.
But 11-2 at home they are.
That should be, outside of Sunday, that should be the one game that they even really have a chance to lose. I know Georgetown beat the living hell out of them, but that feels like it was decades ago at this point. And it will have been more than 2 months since they played in D.C., which was before Christmas.
And, I mean, Georgetown's 12-4 at home. Like, respect to Ed Cooley.
It's about time somebody said it, Josh. Respect to Ed Cooley. Thank you.
He has not turned that thing around, but it's a very large ship, and maybe he's turning it.
I mean, there's a lot of those teams in the middle there who probably think, hey, man, like, what happens if we get to 19 or 20 wins? Then, like, do you have to include us in the conversation? Like, Villanova's at 15-10, Xavier's at 15-10, Georgetown's at 15-9. That's clearly the next group. And I don't know, they're technically alive, but I don't think their metrics probably are going to be enough to get them there at this point. But I don't know. I just wanted to reiterate in this segment that it is crazy that if they win on Sunday, if Creighton wins on Sunday, they're really going to have a chance.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
Also ridiculous. Creighton baseball trailing 3-0.
That's ridiculous.
Spartans score 3 in the first.
That is ridiculous. Texter from the 402 writes in.
Hi, 402.
I forgive you for forgetting that Isaac Trout is the way he is. Come see me in section 220 next Sunday. I'll give you a hug, smiley face.
Oh, I love that.
I will. I don't know who this is at all, but I'll go up to 220 and I'll say, hug me.
What a great Jay's Live bit.
My Jay's Live bit last time, last second, they were like, go stand in because I do my show like right next to the beer garden or the Bud Bar or whatever. And they're like, go out there. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go out there. And I just stood there and people either ran into me and were confused why I was standing in the middle of the spot or ignored me completely. I don't think it worked out how it was intended. All right. Let's take a break here. We will come back. Couple things to round up on this opening day of college baseball season. Also, one more thing that I do not agree with.
Ooh.
On 1620 The Zone. John emails in on the Equitable Bank inbox.
Hi, John.
Apparently, Creighton baseball is in fact sick,
but not sick like Nick says sick.
No. Sickly.
They make you want to vomit,
like in the Kalkbrenner way. Well, I don't know, maybe, but they do have 2 base runners on in the top of the second right now against UNC Greensboro, although they are in a 3-0 hole. I can't wait to broadcast Creighton baseball this spring, starting in less than a month at the Chuck. And if you listen along, you'll get to see me and hear me get progressively more triggered when walks happen in a game.
So there's going to be someone in the booth with you to
most of the time
talk you off the ledge.
Yeah, I think so. I was trying to figure out how they got their runs, how UNC Greensboro got their runs during the break, and I learned that the very first batter of the year faced by Creighton pitching walked.
Oh no!
And then the next batter of the year was hit.
Oh, that's a rough start.
And then predictably, you know what happens next.
Bing!
Double. Exactly. And then you know what happens next. 2 RBI single. And then things settle down from there for Eli Nissen. But
snowball's pretty quick on you, though.
Yep. Don't walk people. Also, I have an announcement to make.
Oh.
Creighton has scored.
Hello.
Once again, don't put people on base for free. College baseball, we'll learn this eventually. Don't walk people.
I don't think they will. They've been playing it a long time.
Matt Sherman with an RBI single, and it's 3-1.
Thanks, Matt.
Way to go, Matt. One thing that I do not agree with before we end the show, Stuart Mandel.
Stew Pot.
Is that what they're calling him? Stew Pot?
Let's try it on.
Stuart Mandel. He did college football's tiers. Somebody asked him in his mailbag, in college basketball, there are teams that expect to advance deep into the NCAA tournament. Others are simply happy to make it at all. If you had to put teams into similar tiers based on the expanded playoff, who would fill each category? So here's how he defined the tiers. Tier 1 expects to compete for national titles and isn't going to celebrate anything less. By the way, Josh, who do you think would fit the bill for that tier?
Natties and nothing else?
Natties and nothing else is successful.
And this is their own fan base that thinks this? Or
that's generally the idea, yes.
Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State.
Nailed it. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Tier 2 expects to make the college football playoff on a yearly basis and considers a deep run to be a success. I won't have you guess those because there's 12 of them.
Texas.
Texas is indeed one of them. You want to throw out some more just for fun?
Notre Dame?
Yes.
I feel like Ole Miss probably thinks that, but it might not be true.
Ole Miss
in actuality.
Did not make that tier.
Okay. Continue.
Okay. Tier 3 makes the college football playoff every 5-ish years and considers it a success to win a game or two. Tier number 4 makes the college football playoff every 10-ish years and excited to win even once. And tier 5 is making the field is a once-in-a-lifetime experience to be celebrated, even if it gets blown out in the process.
Okay.
All right. So, which tier do you think Nebraska belongs in?
Every 5 years.
Agreed. Stuart Mandel says the next one down from that, the every 10-ish years and should be excited to win only one game in that period of time.
That's probably reality, but the fan base
I disagree. Others in that tier: Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, SMU, Louisville, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Pitt, Baylor, BYU, K-State, Colorado, Cincinnati, UCF, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Washington State. So basically the entire Big 12 plus Iowa and Nebraska and a chunk of the ACC as well. I think Nebraska, frankly, belongs in the every 3 to 5 years category. And we're talking about like expectations, and we're talking about what you have the ability to do. Nebraska, if they play football up to their standards, and if they play football of and it mirrors what they're capable of doing, given what their program allows them to do, money, resources, facilities, NIL help, talent acquisition. There's no reason that Nebraska can't be an Ole Miss. There's no reason why Nebraska can't be a Texas A&M. There's no reason why Nebraska can't be Washington, Wisconsin. You know who made this tier that really triggered me and I first got mad at this? Michigan State is in the tier above Nebraska. In what world is that true? TCU, Utah, Boise State. So I just think like that's my haggle here.
Okay.
By the way, I assume that there was one other fan base that was very angry about this.
Uh-oh.
So tier 5, what was tier 5 again? It was
every 10 years.
No, making the field is a once in a lifetime experience to be celebrated, even if it gets its butt kicked in the process. You know who made this tier? Indiana.
Oh, they're going to be so triggered.
They're going to be so mad because you know what happens now. They're going to feel they're going to feel really good about themselves, but he is absolutely correct.
Yes.
About Indiana. Once in a lifetime, what they put together this year, not repeatable. And
they're going to throw their newly purchased hats on the ground.
What's that mean?
It means they just bought Indiana football gear because they just became Indiana football fans.
Oh, they're yes, in anger.
Yeah.
Then they will say, I hate you, Stuart Mandel. But I found it interesting, and I think it's a window and a look into what the perception of Nebraska is, to be honest with you. Like, after all of this losing over the last X amount of years, I don't feel like I'm being naive when I say this. I don't feel like I'm being a homer when I say this. I feel like the losing has clouded people's judgment on what Nebraska's capable of. The fact of the matter is, Nebraska is capable of so much more. Nebraska, why do they get put every single year on the list of teams who routinely underperform? Because they underperform. What you're saying is they're underperforming what they're capable of. But I thought this was a capability test, right? Like,
yeah, which is it?
Yeah, like if you're putting them into tiers, you're telling me this is what you have the ability to do, not like what you have done. And if you're saying what they will do, that's also of what they have the ability to do. And frankly, I think Nebraska has a higher ceiling as a program than every single one of them that they were mentioned in the same sentence as. Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, SMU, Louisville, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Pitt, Baylor, BYU, K-State, Colorado, Cincinnati, UCF, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Washington State. I mean, Nebraska being in the same category Washington State is just asinine to me. So, anyway, there's your Kool-Aid for today. There's your Big Red defense. Not speaking of Big Red defense, they start in just a couple minutes, by the way, in baseball. Creighton has tied the game at 3-3.
Never a doubt.
Top of the second. We're back, folks. And speaking of we're back, after this, with the polls, we'll tell you what to watch on 1620 The Zone. One poll question at Happer Show from yesterday.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Almost got you.
You did. No, you did get me.
Do you own a CD player? I do not anymore. I'm actually kind of sad about it. I didn't even realize it until yesterday.
I have one in my car.
Yeah, so you technically do. Yeah. I don't. 64% say yes. Kind of encouraging. Wow. Do you have sympathy for the Willis family? No. 77% say no. Do you like Moana? Yes, I do. 65% say yes. Do you disagree with Cream? Yes. Yeah. I'm not sure what I was saying, but I remember saying that I'm not on the Cream team.
Nebraska baseball jerseys.
Oh, I disagree with that. Yes. 63% say no. They agree with Cream. Interesting. And does it have to be talk?
No.
Once again, nobody's done Sports Sing Radio yet.
Just trying to find new avenues.
55% say no. So it sounds like there is a market for this.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Those are the polls, Josh. What are we watching tonight?
We are watching college basketball. Big one tonight in the Big Ten. I don't know if it's a big one, actually. UCLA at Indiana.
You do say that it's a big one in the whatever a lot.
It's a sexy matchup, UCLA versus Indiana.
There's some logos there.
Yeah, 7 o'clock tonight on Big Fox. Tomorrow, noon on CBS, an actual big one in the Big Ten. Number 16, Wisconsin at number 7, Purdue.
UCLA, Indiana, by the way, is the number 1 Ken Pom thrill scorer of the night.
Well, it's a small slate tonight. Yeah. Number 6, Houston at number 13, Arizona, 1 o'clock tomorrow on ESPN. And what is being billed as, and it's true, the biggest basketball game in the history of the Southeastern Conference, 3 o'clock tomorrow on ESPN. Number 1, Auburn at number 2, Alabama.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sunday, go Auburn.
Ooh, number 24.
Go Auburn.
But
I hate Alabama. I'm a Creighton person.
But doesn't that help Creighton's
No. I want them to lose at all costs. I hate them so fiercely.
It would take a lot for Alabama to drop out of quad 1.
Yes, quite a bit.
Number 24, Creighton at number 9, St. John's, first place in the Big East on the line. 2 o'clock Sunday on FS1, but you should listen to it here on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. Shoot Around begins at 12:30. John Bishop takes you inside Madison Square Garden at 1:30. Nebraska at Northwestern, 2 o'clock Sunday on BTN. The 24th ranked Creighton women host Georgetown, 3 o'clock tomorrow on FS1. And then a doubleheader of women's basketball Sunday on ABC at noon. It is number 7 UConn versus number 2 South Carolina. I imagine that will draw a number. Number 5 LSU at number 3 Texas immediately after that. All-Star Weekend in the NBA going on in San Francisco. Charles Barkley's already getting booed out of every building he appears in for mentioning that there are quite a few homeless people around. Celebrity Game is tonight on ESPN. The Rising Stars game and tournament is on TNT at 8 o'clock tonight. You can watch Bryce McGowan's on the G League team. Everything is like a 4-team tournament now. It's confusing. All-Star Saturday night tomorrow, 7 o'clock on TNT. The Skills Challenge features Team Cleveland Cavaliers versus Team Rookies, and the Spurs with Victor Wembanyama and someone else against Team Warriors. The three-point shootout, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Tyler Hero, Darius Garland, Buddy Hield, Cam Johnson, Norman Powell, and Dame Lillard. And then the dunk.
That's a good crew.
Yeah, that is sort of morphed into the headline of the evening. It's no longer the dunk contest because the dunk contest features a bunch of nobodies and Mac McClung,
who's also a nobody.
Yeah. The All-Star Game is now a mini tournament, 7 o'clock Sunday on TNT. Team Kenny versus Team Chuck, and then Team Shaq versus Team Candace Parker. The winners of those two will meet in the finals immediately after.
That's what the All-Star Game is?
Yes, that is the format. They drafted teams. I believe Team Candace Parker is a lot better than everyone else. You look distraught.
I didn't know that.
Well, that's happening. The NHL's Four Nations Face-Off continues tomorrow with kind of the main event of the round-robin phase, the US of A versus Canada. 7 o'clock Saturday night on ABC. College baseball, you can watch Nebraska all weekend long in the MLB Desert Invitational. Couple minutes, they get underway.
Actually, the start time for Nebraska baseball has been pushed back.
Oh, no.
Due to a power outage in the stadium.
Oh,
that's
terrible.
A good way to start your season. 2:15
Ominous.
Is the currently scheduled first pitch for Husker baseball.
24th ranked Huskers take on UC Irvine on MLB.com. They will be on MLB Network tomorrow night at 7 when they play number 16 Vanderbilt, and back on MLB.com Sunday night when they take on San Diego State. The Supernovas host the San Diego Mojo, 3 o'clock Sunday on Nebraska Public Media. The Love Omaha volleyball team, they're in Kansas City taking on to be determined. I don't know what that means. 4:30 Saturday on ESPN Plus.
Thank you for trying.
You think they'd know who they're playing tomorrow. And then this weekend is a celebration of all things SNL as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the show. Tonight on Peacock at 7 o'clock, it is the homecoming concert. Lady Gaga, Jack White, Post Malone, and more perform from Radio City Music Hall. And 7 o'clock Sunday night on NBC, it is SNL 50, the anniversary special. Everybody who's anybody is coming back. All the great hosts, the great cast members, big stars. It's going to be a big deal.
Josh, thank you.
Thank you, Connor.
That is it for us today. That's the show. If you missed anything, 1620thezone.com is where you can find it. The crossover featuring Milk is next.